All right, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Grizzly's Cave. This is Grizzly Andrew, and this is actually going to be a first for my podcast. So, normally I just do this and record it via audio and send it out to my 6 platforms. But I thought I would try to do this recording audio as well as streaming live. So this is going to be a first for me, so just bear with me. But before I touch base on the subject that I'm going to talk about, in which those that are watching this channel, they can see the green screen picture that I have behind me. I do want to remind the fans, especially the NAW wrestling fans, and for those of you that are listening via the live stream, NAW stands for New Age Wrestling Entertainment. The next NAW wrestling event, if you're in the Western Kentucky area or close by, it'll be tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at the Nebo Community Center in Nebo, Kentucky. Doors will open at 6 p.m. It is a family-friendly promotion. Concessions will be available. Ticket prices are as follows. General admission is $8 for anybody ages 13 and up. Free for anyone ages 0 to 5. And then $5 for anyone ages 6 to 12. And I promise, folks, you will not be disappointed. The 6 platforms that my podcast is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Patreon, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. And usually after I record an episode, I will go ahead and get it uploaded as soon as possible. It usually takes about an hour or so, just mainly depends on the length of the episode. I do want to thank all of my listeners, followers, subscribers across all platforms. I was actually noticing on Spotify, I'm almost up to 1,000 all-time downloads and plays. I'm going to assume it's just for that particular platform, but it could be for all of them combined. But anyways, to my audio listeners, once you hear this episode, if it's your first time, please give it a like, follow, and a subscribe. If you would be interested in donating to Grizzly's Cave, my cash tag on Cash App is got the $ Grizzly Wildman. Venmo is Andrew-McGregor-2, and then my PayPal is just Andrew McGregor. Any donations would be greatly appreciated. And if you'd be interested in sponsoring Grizzly's Cave, you can email me at grizzliescave@yahoo.com. And also, I'm going to go ahead and plug my resale business. I did start a resale business about a month ago. It's called Grizzly's Resale Cave. And I do have some items listed on eBay. I do have items listed on Marketplace. I do have a Facebook business page as well. It's called Grizzly's Resale Cave. And if you've already heard the episode about the birth of Grizzly's Resale Cave, you already know about the mystery pallets that I purchased. I'm actually at the point I'm probably going to go make another sale or make another purchase to sell some more items. So we'll just see what happens. Long story short, I don't think I'll be purchasing any more mystery pallets because it was rather ironic to purchase 2 mystery Target pallets, and then when I open them up, and thank you, Goblin, for that comment right there. Anyways, but yeah, no more mystery pallets for me. I gotta know what I'm gonna be selling. So anyways, all right, so this picture that I have in the background, this is something that I actually came across several months ago, and I had toyed with the idea of doing an episode on this, and I'm just going to give my opinion on the list, nothing more, nothing less. So I know y'all can't see all of it, but it's labeled, or it's titled, the top 10 worst WWE champions ever. And I went ahead and wrote down the champions on this list, and I'll just give my opinion. And it's just my opinion, and it's nothing special, but I do have some things to say. All right, so coming in at number 10 was Rey Mysterio when he was WWE champion. And I am going to say this, quite a few on this list just goes back to poor booking that these champions received. And I'm sorry, but to say Rey Mysterio was one of the worst WWE champions is garbage, because Rey Mysterio, I mean, and for those of you that know me, you know I'm a Undertaker, Ultimate Warrior fan, but I'm not going to take anything away from Mysterio. My gosh, the fact that he's still going is impressive, and one of the greatest high flyers of all time. I'd say the best high flyer was the late Hayabusa, which I've already covered that on some previous episodes back in the day. Actually, Goblin, that's what I was about to reference, was that hour-long reign. So for those of you that are listening through the audio, I've got a friend here on TikTok named Exhausted Goblin, and he made a comment about, does the hour-long reign count? That is one of the things I was going to touch base on. So for those of you that don't know, back in 2011, this was the beginning of the era of Punk. So CM Punk had won the WWE Championship in July 2011 at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view from John Cena. That's also the year that the pipe bomb heard around the world had taken place, and eventually Punk and Cena had their match. Punk wound up winning, and Punk wound up kayfabe leaving WWE. So about a week or so later, they had a tournament to crown a new WWE champion. Now, Rey Mysterio won this tournament, and he became the champion. Well, and keep in mind, he won this on the opening segment of Monday Night Raw and got a great reaction. And I thought, this is well deserved. He's, been with this company a long time, needs a better run. Well, then Triple H comes out, cuts a promo, says, well, what's best for business is for Rey Mysterio to defend it against John Cena, because Cena was the previous WWE champion. And I already knew from the get-go where this was going. And I'll be damned if I wasn't right. Super Cena wound up winning. And then to close out Raw, they had CM Punk show up, but he came out to different music. This is when he started Cult of Personality for his entrance theme. And I thought it was awesome that he used that song. But he came out wearing the WWE Championship. And anyways, long story short, him and Cena had another rivalry, etc. It led to their rematch at SummerSlam the following month. And so, yeah, Rey Mysterio had a 1-hour WWE Championship reign. And I thought, as great of a athlete and wrestler that Mysterio is, he deserves a lot better than what he's getting. But anyways, that's not on Rey. That's just on piss poor booking from WWE. Now, he did have a reign about 5 years earlier with the World Heavyweight Championship. And for those of you that don't know, Rey Mysterio won the 2006 Royal Rumble, in which he would get to main event, which it was main event at that following WrestleMania. And instead of facing Kurt Angle, he wound up being in a triple threat match with Angle and Randy Orton. Well, Mysterio wound up winning, and he had maybe a 3 or 4 month reign, give or take, and Vince just basically buried this guy as a world champion. And Vince McMahon, who we all know loves to have champions that are well over 6 foot and probably 275-pound bodybuilders and all that, that's his definition of a champion. Well, I mean, he got obliterated by Kali, and then he wound up losing the World Heavyweight Championship to Booker T in the summer of '06, and just piss poor booking is what it boiled down to, and he deserves so much better than that. Yeah, yeah. So what? He was 175 pounds. So what? If this was what your plan was to bury him, then he never should have won the Royal Rumble, and he never should have main evented WrestleMania. Actually, come to think of it, I don't believe he did main event. I think no, John Cena and Triple H main evented that WrestleMania, which that was WrestleMania 22, if my memory serves me right. But I think the only reason they had him win the championship, and I'm sure a lot of other people share this opinion, but if my memory, actually, I think this is exactly what happened. So the late Eddie Guerrero, God rest his soul, had passed away tragically and unexpectedly back in November of 2005. So I would say this was Vince's, I'm thinking this is Vince's way to, I hate to say capitalize on it, but to honor his memory, so to speak. But I don't know. You all can be the judge on that. Coming in at number 9, and I had just mentioned him earlier, it was Alberto Del Rio. And I know he's had some legal stuff happen over the years, so I will not touch base on that. So Alberto actually had a couple of runs with this championship. And I know Vince was really trying to tap into the Hispanic market. And they even gave Del Rio a babyface push as a world champion. And so I mentioned about Punk and Cena. They main evented SummerSlam in 2011. Triple H was the special guest referee. Punk wound up winning, even though Cena's foot was on the ropes. So Punk retains. Well, all of a sudden, Kevin Nash makes an unexpected return. He attacks CM Punk, jackknifes him, and ironically, Del Rio was the holder of the Money in the Bank. Well, WWE says contract, but come on, people, they're holding a suitcase or a briefcase. So Del Rio was the holder of the Money in the Bank briefcase. He had tried to cash it in at that previous month's Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Well, Punk knocked him out, and Punk left with the championship. Well, fast forward, Punk's knocked out unconscious. Del Rio cashes in. He becomes WWE champion. The following month, John Cena winds up defeating Alberto Del Rio, and he becomes WWE champion again. See, folks, this is what I've talked about on previous episodes, this whole hot potato in championships. It's not good for business, and it devalues the championship. I'm sorry for my language, but it's fucking bullshit. And shame on you, Vince McMahon, for devaluing all of your championships and all that, especially back then. John Cena won that match. And then about a month later, Del Rio challenges again. Del Rio winds up winning the championship. And then fast forward to Survivor Series 2011, Punk and Del Rio had a match. And from what I remember, it was a really good match. Punk winds up winning the championship, and that issued in the long championship reign of CM Punk, which was well-deserved in my opinion. I'm not stating it as fact. It's just strictly my opinion. And again, Del Rio, he had a very unsuccessful babyface run as world champion in 2013. Now, I do remember this. I thought it was interesting or cool, whatever, to try something different with him. I think it could have worked, but it's just one of them things where the fans are either going to accept you as a babyface or they'll accept you as a heel, and it wasn't working, unfortunately. So, it is what it is. Moving on, number 8, Big Daddy Cool Diesel, WWF champion. So, This guy was booked as a strong champion, and he won the belt from Bob Backlund in November of 1994. And this is literally a week after Bob Backlund defeated Bret Hart in the submission towel match at Survivor Series 1994. Again, I'm not big on hot potato and championships like this, but Vince wasn't as bad back in the 90s. Well, Kevin Nash, Diesel, whatever you want to call him, he gets a lot of flack for being one of the worst champions in history. I didn't look the numbers up. I've heard various superstars say he didn't draw much. I can't really say that he didn't draw. It's just the wrestling business itself as a whole, especially in that time frame, as Jim Cornette says, it was the depression of the wrestling business. So you can't really fault Nash on that. You can't fault Diesel on this. I really don't know what else to really say on that other than, I mean, it wasn't bad booking. I mean, he had matches with Bret Hart. He had a WrestleMania match with Shawn Michaels. It wasn't the main event, but nonetheless, it was a championship match. He had title defenses against Psycho Sid, God rest his soul, the British Bulldog. One of the worst championship matches that man had during his reign, and not to speak ill of the dead, but was against the late Nelson Frazier, who we all knew at that time as King Mabel, who would eventually later on go to become Viscera and then Big Daddy V. But you can't really, I don't know if I'd really put Diesel on one of the worst champions list, but it is what it is. Coming in at number 7 was Goldberg as Universal Champion. Oh yeah, Goblin, I gotta agree with you. His two best matches were both with Bret, with Bret at both Royal Rumble '95 and at their Survivor Series. I actually watched that Survivor Series match back in about 3 years ago. I watched it and I thought it was really awesome. But yeah, Goldberg never should have been Universal Champion either time that he held it. Did I think it was awesome that he came back in 2016? Well, sure. I was a fan of Goldberg, even though I was more so a WWF guy during the Monday Night Wars, but with WCW, I was a big fan of Goldberg. Absolutely. He reminded me a lot of the Ultimate Warrior. He had squash matches. He did nothing fancy. He just went in. He smashed people. Was he the best worker? No. I mean, he was not the best worker, and William Regal proved that back in '98. But his first Universal Championship reign started in February of 2017. Or maybe it was March. It was one of the two. And this is, just a few months after he made his return to WWE. And we all know he had that 1 minute and 32-second match with Brock Lesnar at the 2016 Survivor Series in the main event, by the way. That is probably the quickest main event in the 40 years I've been living on this earth that I've ever seen. Anyways, with that said, Kevin Owens was Universal Champ at this time, and him and Chris Jericho they were the best friends on Raw, and I still see the reels on TikTok. I think that was an awesome combination with those two, especially with Jericho, with the list of Jericho, calling people a stupid idiot, saying, you just made the list, etc. I thought that was some good stuff because the fans loved it, and that's what it boils down to, is getting reactions out of fans, getting yourself over, selling yourself. I mean, that's some good stuff. So we get to, I believe it was the Fastlane pay-per-view in 2017. and it's the main event. It's Goldberg versus Kevin Owens. Now, the build up to this match, Kevin Owens, I swear, he is one of the best mouthpieces ever in this business. And he refers to Goldberg, he just calls him Bill. Just says Bill. Doesn't refer to him as Goldberg, just calls him straight up Bill. Well, anyways, prior to this match, Kevin Owens turned on Chris Jericho on the episode of Raw that had their quote-unquote Festival of Friendship. And, well, Owens turned on Jericho. Well, here comes the match at Fastlane. As soon as the bell rings, you hear Jericho's music hit. He appears at the entranceway, whatever you want to call it. Owens gets distracted. Goldberg hits Owens with a spear, hits him with a jackhammer, and pins him. 1, 2, 3. Goldberg is your new champion. Okay. So who's going to be Goldberg's first title defense? Well, none other than the Beast Incarnate himself, Brock Lesnar. And so at WrestleMania 33, Goldberg and Lesnar have a rematch from their 2016 Survivor Series match. You know what? I'm going to send an invite out to see if I can get another person on here to join me as a guest. But anyways, yeah, Goldberg and Lesnar have their match, and folks, this you know it's sad when you're timing the matches. Okay, I'm gonna throw this out there. Any Goldberg match that he had when he came back, I would literally hit the start button on my timer. So we get to the Lesnar Goldberg match, and from bell to bell, it was 4 minutes and 32 seconds. And the match consisted of spears from Goldberg and German suplexes from Brock Lesnar. That was the whole freaking match until we get to a jackhammer and some F5s. Eventually, Brock Lesnar winds up winning the match, becomes the new Universal Champion. So, I mean, Goldberg had a 1-month reign. Okay, well, let's fast forward a few years later. Boy, I swear. And I've covered this a little bit on my Life of the Late Bray Wyatt series, back when The Fiend was the Universal Champion. Him and Goldberg had a match a month before WrestleMania. This would be WrestleMania 36, and that's when COVID came to town. And, well, let me backtrack. Goldberg and Wyatt actually had that match just prior to the shutdown. And it was at the Crown Jewel pay-per-view, if I remember correctly. And keep in mind, they had been building The Fiend up as this unstoppable monster. And he'd had, I think he'd been champion for about 5 months at this point. And I was actually a fan of, a fan of the gimmick. And then they feed him to Goldberg. And now I did not have my timer set on my phone when I watched this match, but it was really nothing special. It was basically, it looks like I got a guess. Goblin, what is up, buddy?
Grizz, what's good, bro? How you been, man?
I've been good. How about yourself?
Chilling, man. Life is life and working home.
Yes, sir. And by the way, welcome to an episode of Grizzly's Cave. By the way, I'm recording audio and I'm doing it and I'm streaming. So, welcome to the show.
I appreciate it, man. I know I heard you earlier, and then when I left the comment, you read the comment, and I was like, oh, I felt bad because I was like, oh, I'm interrupting the an episode of the podcast, you know?
No, no, you're good. I'm just trying to do something different. I knew this was just gonna be a solo episode, and honestly, I have more fun and whenever I have guests on or have someone to talk to, because buddy, even 30-minute episodes, I get bored listening to myself talk. So, but anyways, it's good to hear from you, and like I said, welcome to the show. And this picture that I've got behind me, I come across it. I want to say it was on Facebook about 6 months ago, and I took a screenshot of it, and I thought, man, this would be good to have, for maybe a potential podcast episode. So, um, and I did see your I did see your comment, which it looks like TikTok. I don't. They didn't flag it, but they don't have it bold. So, but I gotta say that's a very funny comment.
Oh yeah, I wasn't sure if you could see it because as soon as I typed it, I saw um the the usual TikTok. What is the little statement about this? Some comments were like under they were protected or something like that. But yeah, because I know, and it's funny as I was typing it, you would it was just as you were mentioning Cornette yourself, and I was like, oh, see, great minds think alike.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So I've made it on the list to Goldberg during his Universal title run. I've already commented whenever he won it from Kevin Owens back in 2017, and I just started talking about when he defeated Bray Wyatt. But what would you like to add? Actually, if you want to add anything about Goldberg or the previous ones I mentioned, Diesel or Del Rio or Mysterio, man, feel free to go ahead and say what you'd like to say.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I'll start with Goldberg. I think, especially with the two runs in the WWE, he, I think it was, how do I put it? It was less for me. It was less about the winning the title, right? Because like obviously he was older and it was a nostalgia thing, and it was a strike while the iron's hot kind of situation, and I'm cool with that. I'm all about, hey, it's the wrestling business. Let's make some money. Let's draw some houses. Let's move some merch. Whatever the case is, I think the biggest problems that I have with Goldberg's two runs is who he took the titles from. Bray, when Bray just and as Bray was, it felt like he was becoming Bray Wyatt, like he was becoming a big deal. It was like completely squashed by Goldberg at the moment. And it was the same thing with Kevin Owens because that should have very easily been KO. I don't know if that was the same year. That was KO versus Jericho. Like that could have led them into WrestleMania, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, that would have been a huge match. Like it might not have been Marquee Hogan Andre or Hogan Warrior, but for 2017, I think you said it was, and the
Yes, sir.
crowd and the building of that storyline of Jericho versus KO, like that would have been a huge match. That we would be probably talking about that match now, being like, oh man, that was a great way to end a feud or a great way to end a storyline. So I think it was as much as it was Goldberg winning the belt and WWE trying to make some money and being a business. Cool. It was just very unfortunate that they took it off of two guys who who were just hitting their stride in their title runs, and it just kind of halted what could have been a really good run for each of them.
I absolutely agree. And, when Goldberg beat Owens, Owens had just become Universal Champion literally about 5 months earlier because, the Demon Finn Balor or Demon King Finn Balor, he defeated Seth Rollins at the 2016 SummerSlam. He got injured. It was like a four-way elimination match. Kevin Owens wound up winning, which I was really surprised that Vince went with him. just because, like me and you both know how McMahon runs the show, that ran the show there basically, but he went with Owens, and I thought Owens was a great champion. And you mentioned about Jericho and Owens at Mania. If they would not have fed him to Goldberg, those two could have had the championship match at Mania,
Mhm.
and they probably would not have main evented. It probably would have been still Taker versus Reigns, but I think Owens and Jericho, as popular as that duo was when they were together, the best friends and all that and whatnot, I think that would have been a better program to go with than what Vince initially went with. And you mentioned about Bray Wyatt. So I don't know if you've listened to my previous episodes that I've got on my platforms, Goblin, but I did do a Bray Wyatt series. I believe it was 6 parts, if I'm not mistaken, and I covered a little bit about Goldberg beating Bray Wyatt, and I thought it was a bullshit move. Like you said, Bray Wyatt was coming into his own with the Fiend gimmick, and don't get me wrong, I liked the cult leader gimmick that he had. I mean, it was unique and it was over. But by the time he won his first championship in 2017, they were already 3 years late on it. He should have won it in 2014. But
Yeah.
anyways, I digress. What did you think about Goldberg's World Championship run back in 2003?
Um, you know what? I don't remember much about 2003. I think honestly, like I look back at my life, right? Not even just as a fan, but like 2002, 2003, and probably 2004. Those are real like blind spots in my history of pro wrestling. Um, just because 2002 I was like 18, 19, 20. Though that 2002 3 4 run, um and I was living like all over the place and doing this and doing that, so like wrestling was not on my weekly calendar. um so I can't remember much of his run. I know he beat Triple H, right? I know he took it off of Triple H.
Mm-hmm.
um and I don't even remember how he lose it back to Triple H.
He did. So originally he was supposed to. It was supposed to have been a match with just him and Triple H at the '03 SummerSlam. Well, the plans wound up changing. They made it an elimination chamber match. So the following month at Unforgiven, he did beat Triple H, and then they had a rematch at the '03 Survivor Series. Goldberg retained, and then the following month, which this would have been Armageddon, and there was a triple threat match between Goldberg, Triple H, and Kane, and Triple H wound up pinning Goldberg and got his belt back.
Yeah, that's again, that's part of that's another one. See, and it's kind of funny because if you look at it, it's almost the reverse of 2016, 2017, where Triple H was stamping out what could have been a potentially really good run from Goldberg while he was still hot, while he was still young and fresh.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been a really good run of Goldberg going through some of the WWE guys, right? Like he could have went through Kane, he could have went through Triple H, he could have ended up Goldberg versus Taker, Goldberg, Jericho, Goldberg, whoever the case may be. I mean, it was still in a situation where it could have been uh, Rock possibly coming back. Like it's just yeah, that's the blind spot for me. And like I mentioned about those couple years. I was fortunate enough to miss Triple H's reign of terror, apparently, So,
you're lucky.
yeah. But yeah, man, like it's really weird that whole um the way that WWE, the disdain for WCW throughout the years and throughout the opportunities, because they all, anytime an opportunity arose for Vince to kind of stick it to WCW, uh, he never let that opportunity pass by. You know, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even the egregious ones like WrestleMania 31, where I was in attendance, I was there to watch Triple H defeat Sting at his only WrestleMania match, which Triple H did not gain anything from. Sting lost all momentum from. It was just, yeah, it never ceases to amaze me the disdain for World Championship Wrestling that Vince McMahon had.
Yeah, Vince was big time egomaniac. One of the biggest egos in the business, and people thought the late Hulk Hogan had a big ego. Now nobody could top Vince McMahon. It just, I don't know, just never, it just didn't cease to amaze me on that. Did you want to add anything onto the previous guys I mentioned, like Nash or Del Rio or Mysterio?
Nash, I agree with you. What you said, it was a low point for the business as a whole. Um, and I think Nash. Uh, I mean, I guess you can. I mean, it's a, what do they say in football, right? If you get all the, if you, as a quarterback, if you get all the praises for the wins, you should get all the blame for the losses. So, Nash as the world champion in '95. I mean, again, as it was a down year for everybody, but he was the champion, and he should fall on the proverbial sword. Um, as far as Del Rio, it's kind of sad because I remember him coming in with such not fanfare, but like hype. Like I remember the Ted DiBiase esque vignettes leading up to his debut, and I wanted to like Del Rio. Like in the ring, if you just, in a vacuum in the ring, he could go, right. Like he was really good technical. He could work. And I remember watching his the beginning of his run in WWE, and I wanted to be a fan so bad. And I can honestly look back and I think back, and I can't remember any matches that he had. The only thing I can remember are his moments, which was him cashing in on Punk, him getting cashed in on by Dolph Ziggler, and uh, yeah, and that's about it. You know what I mean? So I got to agree with you that he belongs on this list. And then as far as Rey Mysterio, yeah, Rey Mysterio, it's Rey Mysterio's first run again, post Eddie and the Royal Rumble win. Cool. It was a feel good. It was a feel good moment, and the crowd was behind it. And the crowd wanted it as a way to pay tribute to Eddie. And we all knew what it was when Ray won the Royal Rumble. We knew that was for Eddie. That was, he was going to win at WrestleMania. But yeah, like you said, he was poorly booked. He was never in the main event. He was losing the matches more often than he was winning these title matches. And yeah, it was just, it's funny because I always look back on that run and I think of Io's first run after she cashed in at SummerSlam. Her first run with the women's title, it was very similar to Rey Mysterio's. It was just poorly booked, couldn't get any run. It was almost like the moment was the most important part rather than the reign itself.
Yeah, and one of the things that really sticks out, which ironically, who I'm about to mention is actually on this list too, but he's a little higher up. But the Great Khali, after Mysterio won the belt, and folks, don't tell Vince McMahon I said belt. I don't want him to find me now. But uh, Khali had debuted not too long after, and we all remember the debut of Khali when he decimated the Undertaker and all that. But Mysterio got put into a match with him on SmackDown, and I'm thinking, why are we doing this? It doesn't, as my best friend JC Flash would say, it doesn't make any sense. And yeah, I remember Ray tried a springboard drop kick from the apron. He jumped in, hit Khali with a drop kick, just bounced right off. Khali just decimated him. And now we all know that if Roman had been champion at that time, then we know Roman would have slain the Giant. But we can't do that with Rey Mysterio. I just thought it was piss poor booking, and like I mentioned earlier, before I tapped for you to come on here, he wound up losing it to Booker T, or King Booker, excuse me. Let me backtrack. King Booker, all hail King Booker, But yeah, it was just piss poor booking, and it's just a shame.
Yeah, and the points you were making about Rey Mysterio, he's a legend, all-time high flyer, probably at least anybody who's kind of alive at this point, the most famous lucha outside of El Santo or the Blue Demon, because he influenced a generation, 2 generations, because he's 50 years old and he's still wrestling. He's been wrestling for 40 years basically.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I have a brief race story. He came into my job a few years ago, and I got to help him and talk to him and this and that. And the people that I work with, they weren't really wrestling fans, but they know who Rey Mysterio is, and they're like, "Hey, Rey Mysterio's here! Rey Mysterio's here!" So it goes to show that he transcends pro wrestling, and the name Rey Mysterio carries weight across platforms and across demographics and things like that.
Oh yeah, and like one of my old college roommates, he was a big Rey Mysterio fan. I mean, he absolutely loved Rey. He was a Rey guy. I was a Taker guy, and our other roommate was a shoe fire. I think he was a Cena guy.
Okay.
So we had a little bit of a diversity there. So, but he also liked Shawn Michaels too. So, but yeah, it's just as I said, I think Mysterio is one of the greatest high flyers of all time. Me personally, my opinion, all time great was the late Hayabusa, and it would have been awesome to have seen those two share a ring like in WCW or even in WWE if Hayabusa hadn't had his unfortunate accident back in 2001. Just think of what we could have had. But anyways, I digress.
No, it's no, since you're mentioning Hayabusa, it's funny because I have recently just I think maybe 3 months ago or something, I was kind of recatching up, like you mentioned, you're a Taker guy, you're a Warrior guy. Growing up, I was a Hogan guy. Like as a child, Hogan was my guy. He's the reason I started watching wrestling. And then 92, probably, yeah, like 92, 93, 94. Basically for the rest of his career, I was Brett. Brett was my guy. To this day, Brett's the greatest of all time. I know he's the greatest in-ring storyteller. He's the greatest worker. Brett's what everybody says Ric Flair is. That's how I kind of look at it,
Yeah.
But I was watching, I believe it's King of the Ring 1, Brett versus Hakushi. Or it might have been In Your House 2. In Your House 1 or In Your House 2. And great match. Brett and Hakushi, it's great. And I think on my YouTube algorithm, it kind of started bringing up Jinsei Shinzaki and Hayabusa, and they're great. They're one of the great tag teams. Never talked about. I mean, they had a short run, but like the impact of that run was great. Their even all their great matches in All Japan, and their great match in ECW with Rob Van Dam and Sabu. So no,
Hmm.
when you talk about Hayabusa, I've just recently started to like appreciate and get into his matches, and like yeah, like I always liked Hakushi, but like just as him going back to Japan and being Jinsei Shinzaki, it's like, oh man, like that guy was a superstar, megastar.
Oh yeah.
That guy was so he like they talk about fluidity in the ring. Like Shinzaki was just unbelievably smooth in the ring. Like man, so good.
Right. And it's funny you mentioned that because I did a series on Hayabusa. I did a it was 4-part series, and I don't know if you've listened to it, but one episode I did cover that Hayabusa was actually he was actually supposed to be in Hakushi spot in WWF back in '95. They were actually wanting to bring Hayabusa in at that point, but he wound up declining, and Jinsei Shinzaki wound up going instead, and he became Hakushi. And I did get to see Hakushi and Bret Hart live, and I covered that on one of my older episodes. It was a live event I went to in Evansville, Indiana, at Roberts Stadium back in July of '95, and turned out it was just I noticed something was odd because I was seeing the same guys come out and wrestle 2 matches. Well, I think basically it was one of those double takes, as they call it, and it was a double shots for superstar tapings in a nutshell. But the dark match, or the main event, whatever you want to call it, was Hakushi and Bret Hart inside the old school blue cage match, blue cage, and that was awesome to behold. And Bret Hart wound up winning, but yeah, man, it was those two had so much chemistry, and just the match flowed well, and oh yeah, it was just an awesome spectacle to behold.
That's
And
awesome.
I, and ironically, that happened during Diesel's title run. Lord
Oh
have
man, that's freaking funny.
Lord have mercy. So the next person on the list, which this really shocked me, was Cody Rhodes, or as a lot of people are referring to him nowadays as Cody Hogan. So you know me from our conversations we've had over the time that I've known you. I don't really follow much what's going on today other than through the news or whatever, the wrestling news. So if you want to give your take on how you feel about Cody being champion, go right ahead.
What number is he on the list? Is this number
Look,
6?
looks like either hell. I see 9 names. I missed one. I forgot to put Kali down. Cody would either be 10, 9, 8. He'd be number either 6 or 5.
6 or 5. I think Cody. I think they had a great story and a great angle for him to return with the whole finishing the story, and it's funny because they always refer to it as finish the story or finishing the story, and he's not finishing the story because they make it sound like it's his story. He's finishing his daddy's story. Like that's the way it was pitched when he first returned. I'm there to win the title my dad didn't win, or how did he put it? The belt that they took from my dad, which again we all seen the footage of Dusty holding up the WWF title in Madison Square Garden and this and that. But they had a great angle to bring Cody back, and 39 came and Roman beat him, and everybody was like, "Wow, what are you gonna do?" And there's the redemption arc, right? There's the redemption, and to get back, he wins the Rumble again. It was very Hulk Hogan esque. It was very 80s esque. The Cody run. And then at WrestleMania 40, he beats Roman Reigns. He ends the 4-year reign of Roman and all these things. And then the subsequent 2.5 years has been unbelievably lackluster. Unbelievably lackluster. I think it's I know you're a corny guy. And Corny always talks about this in relation to Tony Khan, and where he says that Tony books stipulations or he books matches because that's how it was done in the 80s or in the 90s, mostly the 80s, but he always leaves out how they got to that point or why that match is the way it is or why that match happens. And it's kind of like that with Cody. Cody is he wants to be Dusty. He books himself like Dusty, or at least he pitches ideas like Dusty, but Dusty was always fighting from underneath, or Dusty was always being done wrong, right? Like Dusty's from the Horsemen and Ole and Flair and whoever the case may be, Arn and Tully. Like Dusty was always being done wrong, like the everyday man, and that was the American dream, right? Like that's what made him so relatable because we've all been kicked when we were down. We've all been done wrong, baby. Like it was Dusty Rhodes for the 80s. It was prime. It was because it was also the era where it was Wall Street, it was the yuppies, it was whatever the case may be when Dusty was booking himself this way. And Cody has been afforded title match after title match after title match, opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. So these angles that they put him in, they don't resonate and they don't hit, and you just kind of look at it and go, yeah, like I mean, a prime example is this current angle with going into SummerSlam with CM Punk. He literally last week just walked up and said, yeah, I want a match. And Punk said, all right, let's do it. And that's how he got his title shot at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I guess we can go ahead. We can go ahead and segue into that. So, and I'm sure you have the same sentiment that I have. But I personally thought it was awesome to see Sami Zayn finally get his moment as long as he's been in the business, and also with as long as he's been with WWE. I thought it was incredible. I personally would have rather seen him win it in a one-on-one match against Cody. But with that said, 1 week later, he drops the belt. He drops the belt to CM Punk. I mean, that was a head scratcher for me. It kind of goes back to what I said about how the company really likes to how they like to hot potato championships, and I feel like it devalues the championship. I really felt like Sammy got done dirty, and nothing against Punk. I mean, by no means, nothing against Punk, and definitely nothing against Cody. But I just felt like the company just shit on Sami Zayn and that big accomplishment that he made. What's your take on that?
See, I think honestly, I feel, and I don't know if it's a wild take, but I feel like it's an indictment on Cody. I think it was Cody knowing that if the rematch happens at SummerSlam, he's gonna have to be the heel. No one's gonna want to see Cody go into SummerSlam and beat Sami Zayn. Like, no matter how much they've played up Sammy the last 3-4 months as being a heel, or what did he call himself, the last good guy, whatever the case was, like you said, Sammy finally getting his moment, and I'm not a Sami Zayn guy at all. I respect him. He's a great in-ring guy. He in no way is it a knock on his in-ring. Sami Zayn is in between the ropes. That guy can go. He's an all-timer. He really is. If even if Jim Cornette, who had personal beef with Sammy and El Generico, can look today and say Sammy is amazing, I think it's just Cody knew that if the rematch was to happen at SummerSlam with him and Sammy, he'd be the heel. He'd be getting booed, and he'd probably have to do the job. And I think the best way that WWE thought, okay, let's take the heat off of Cody and let's put it on. Let's have Punk beat Sammy. So when Cody challenges for the belt, maybe there's the offshoot or the off chance that heat will be on Punk for taking the title off of Sammy, which now we know there is no heat because even with this, we still don't want to see Cody win the title. We don't want to see Cody in the picture. And so I think I've been looking at Sammy's loss to Punk as an indictment on Cody. And an indictment on the company for kind of not wanting to put Cody in a situation where he's going to get booed. And I get it. It's from a business. It's protecting your assets, right? Like Cody's, he's a merch seller. I'm sure Cody's he's the spokesman for vodkas and any products that WWE gets involved with. It's Cody's the guy, you know. He really is the face of the company, which is a whole nother situation we could talk about some other time about who the face of the company is. But yeah, I think the Cody being on this list, it's justified. I think in modern times, and at least in the last decade, his reign at the top has been rather boring. It's very reminiscent to the Big Dog. It's very reminiscent to the Big Dog run where it was just, yeah, we don't want to see you in this position. And I know you said you're not like, you don't stay super up with the current product, but I mean, I've been saying for a while that the best thing that they could do is use what they did with Charlotte Flair. When Charlotte Flair came back last year at the Royal Rumble, nobody wanted to see her win, or at least they wouldn't have minded it had she been a surprise return. But they spoiled her return, so everybody knew she was coming back and was like, okay, well, she's gonna win. We knew she was gonna win, and then we didn't want to see her versus Tiffany. We didn't want to see her win the title. Thankfully, she didn't win the title, and they've rehabbed her her character. They've rehabbed her standing with the audience by pairing her with an all-time favorite in Alexa Bliss, keeping her away from the world title. She had the tag titles, but again, it was secondary, tertiary, if you want to even include US titles. But that's what they got to do with Cody. I'm not saying they need to put him in the tag team division, but they need to put him in a storyline that doesn't involve the title. Put him in a tag team match. Put him and not even necessarily for the US title or anything like that, but just keep him away from the world title for 6 months, 8 months, whatever the case is. You know, like they just need to just do what they did with Charlotte. And now I've heard people talking about, yeah, let's see Charlotte versus Rhea. Let's see that match again for the title. So it doesn't take much for the fans to get back in the fans' good graces. Just stop putting them in the front and center in the main event or in the title picture.
Sure. Yeah, man, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And, one thing to consider is, getting back to if they did Sammy versus Cody as a rematch, Cody would probably get that same treatment that he got in AEW there towards the end of his run, where he was basically getting booed, or or the fans throwing his weightlifting belt back to him. Yeah. There was a TikTok reel that said Cody knew his time was up, and or Cody knew his run was about to end there when this moment happened, and he was getting booed, and fan threw his belt back at him and stuff. And no, that's a very valid point. I actually didn't even think of that. Anything else you want to add to Cody Hogan before we move to our next person on the list?
No, I think I think that's all been said. I will say about the AEW run real quick. I'm a fan of heels who don't know they're heels. I don't know if you remember I don't even remember what it was, maybe 2015, 2016, Bo Dallas, when the whole Bo leave, when he I was because it started off cheesy, and then when he won the NXT title, he kept doing it and slowly getting like booed. But like I love the oblivious heel who thinks he's a babyface. So like yeah, Cody's the end of Cody's run in AEW. I laughed my ass off during it because I don't know, it's just one of those tropes that I love.
I remember telling some buddies of mine that I used to watch the pay-per-views with back when the network had just kind of come into its own thing. And I had said, guys, I said, wouldn't it be great to have Bo Dallas mixed in with the New Day? You know, he could still do his victory lap around the ring, but instead of with his fists in the air with his thumbs out to the side, he can be running around clapping to the New Day's music and stuff, and they can be following him in tow and all that, or, you know, or he could just be in the middle of them or whatever. I was like, that'd be a good combination. They got a little kick out of that. They thought that would have been funny. So, but our next person on the list is we all knew him as the All-American American, Jack Swagger.
Oh man.
Yeah. Oh man. They could have done him so much better. But what's listed on the screen and was his world title run back in 2010. And they built him up pretty good because, and I know you'll remember, but for our listeners, they may not remember, he won the ECW title, which honestly, that was the equivalent of the WCW television title at that point. But he defeated Matt Hardy and became the ECW champion. He had about a good 4 or 5 month reign with it, and then he lost it to Christian when Christian returned to WWE from TNA. And then, of course, Christian would have a long reign up until losing it to Ezekiel Jackson on like the very last episode of ECW. Well, when Swagger went to the main roster, he wound up winning the Money in the Bank ladder match at the 2010 WrestleMania, which that would have been 26 if I remember correctly. And then the following SmackDown, after Edge had attacked or speared the champion at the time, which was Chris Jericho, Swagger came in, cashed in, and he won the world championship. But he didn't really have that long of a reign. To be quite honest with you, I don't really remember much about it. I just know it was a short reign. I remember he had a little bit of a feud with the Big Show. And I know they had a pay-per-view match. It might have been at that year's inaugural Money in the Bank pay-per-view, but Swagger wound up retaining. Do you want to shed some? Let me backtrack here.
I do remember his cash in, and I popped. I remember, and again, correct me on who was the one who. Was it Edge who attacked Jericho?
Yes, because they just had a match at Mania for the World Championship because Edge won the 2010 Royal Rumble.
Yes,
but unfortunately they didn't main event. And if my memory's correct, I think they opened up that Mania. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, they had been feuding for the championship, and Jericho wound up keeping the belt. And then I think Jericho had like a promo or something, and Edge came out and attacked him, and then Swagger capitalized basically.
Yeah. I remember. I watched that live. I remember watching that episode of SmackDown, and I popped. I popped when Swagger's music came out, and if there's anything that gives Jack Swagger credit, as someone who's a fan of Rage Against the Machine, I loved Jack Swagger's first theme song because it was I don't know, whoever recorded it had this like dude who sounded exactly like Zach De La Rocha, and like Jack Swagger's original theme song sounded just like Rage Against the Machine. So I loved his original theme song. But yeah, I popped big when his cash in happened. And if you look back, and I'm sure if I don't know if it's WWE likes to edit things and stuff when it comes to reactions, but I remember the crowd popping when he cashed in, because the thing that made me pop too was after he cashed in, he won the belt and he just stood there with this like stern look on his face, like, yeah, I'm the man. And I was like, damn, like, let's go. And then absolutely nothing happened. Like you said, like absolutely nothing happened.
Well, come to think of it, I do remember Mysterio had actually beat him in a match that they had, and then immediately Kane cashed in on Mysterio, and then he became world champion. I just now remembered that. So that was another one of those hour, well, this wasn't an hour long reign. It was one of them 5-minute reigns. You know what I mean? And that was just another way for WWE to shit on Mysterio, unfortunately. But yeah, he didn't really he did not have a memorable reign, and sadly, that was his only main title reign. World with that being the World Heavyweight Championship. They could have done him a lot better. And honestly, I'm really surprised they didn't pull the trigger on him whenever he came back with the real, not Hulk Hogan, Real American gimmick, but, back when he came back with Dutch Mantel, or Zeb Coulter as he was known at the time. I'm really shocked they didn't go with him on that either, but.
Did him and Cesaro ever win the tag titles? I can't recall, but.
Now, Cesaro won it with Sheamus when they were the Bar, but I do not remember them having a tag team championship run. They should have. I will say that. They definitely should have. Go ahead. I'm
sorry.
No, you go ahead, bud.
No, I was just going to say, it was such an odd pairing to have them together, and having Cesaro hand over his heart, say "We the People," when his whole gimmick was he was the Swiss Superman. So it was always odd to me.
Well, you got to think though, that's not the first time something's been done like that. You got to think of Rob Conway when they brought him in from OVW. They paired him with La Resistance, and he was a French sympathizer. You know what I mean? And that's actually going to segue into the next person on the list. But before I do that, yeah, it was an odd pairing, but. Honestly, it should have been a boost for both of them, but it wound up boosting Cesaro because, at WrestleMania 30, he won the very first Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and they started to give him a push, and then they just basically, pulled the plug on that one just shortly after it began. So, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the Andre Battle Royal, or as the lovely crowd on Reddit Squared Circle refer to it as the arm bar, because I believe it's the acronym is the Andre, was it Rusimov? The Andre Rusimov Memorial Battle Royal, the arm bar. That's what they refer to it as.
Oh, I gotta love it. Anything else you want to add on Mr. Swagger before we move on?
I hope he's enjoying Power Slap.
Oh, yeah, I saw that clip. Holy crap, man. Whew.
Yeah.
Man. And if I'm not mistaken, the guy that knocked him out, wasn't he a former WWE guy as well?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't see who the details. I didn't catch the details on who slapped him silly, but yeah, it was making the rounds all over social media.
Yeah, he had that glassy-eyed look as he was starting to come to. Kind of reminded me of JBL after Bart Gunn knocked him out in the Brawl for All tournament, which I may need to do an episode on that someday. But so we talked about sympathizers, or I mentioned about a sympathizer. So the next person on the list is Sergeant Slaughter, who was when he won the WWF Championship in 1991 against the Ultimate Warrior. He came back as an Iraqi sympathizer because we were already in the desert, Desert Storm or Persian Gulf War, whatever you want to refer to it as, and they had brought Slaughter back from the dying AWA, and they brought him back as a heel. He was an Iraqi sympathizer. They immediately threw him in. Well, let me backtrack. They didn't immediately throw him in. They brought him back with a small feud with the late Nikolai Volkov, who was a babyface at that time. He had been paired with Hacksaw Jim Duggan and stuff. And they captained their respective teams at the 1990 Survivor Series. And that ultimately ended that feud. And speaking of Ultimate, then they put him in with the Ultimate Warrior, who was in the tail end of his WWF Championship run. And he winds up beating him, albeit he had assistance from the late Macho King Randy Savage and the late Queen Sherry. And he had, a 2, maybe 3 month reign, and he eventually dropped it to Hogan at WrestleMania 7.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had a somewhat of a good idea, to basically capitalize on a real life world event taking place. I guess he thought that might have been some money, but unfortunately that wound up hurting them, because if you remember, Goblin, that was actually they how they like to overstate things. They said it was over 100,000 people in attendance. I think Bruce Pritchard went on record and said they had maybe 10 or 11,000 in attendance because they had to move it to a smaller venue, and also because they couldn't get the amount of protection that they were guaranteed originally when they had the first venue booked for WrestleMania 7. So, yeah, it wasn't, as Mike Graham would say, never drew a dime. Not a dime, I don't know. Have you heard those interviews before from the late Mike Graham?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay. I won't use, there's certain words I won't say because I don't want to get flagged by TikTok, but
absolutely.
if you get a chance, and also to the listeners as well, there's some YouTube clips about the late Mike Graham back when he when he was an agent for WCW, and he referred to a group of wrestlers. He also threw in an adjective. He also threw in a noun or an adjective, whatever you want to say, about the late Benoit, the late Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn. He talked about how he saved the company $2.5 million a year. He said, because these guys never drew a dime, not a dime. And there's also another page. It's referred to as Hawkamania, and the channel is Marky D123, and he talks about certain wrestlers' runs in whether it's WWE, TNA, whatever. Well, he did one on Mike Graham back when Graham wrestled for WCW back in the early 90s, and every time he got an S or an F, for the match, you'd hear Mike Graham say, "Not a dime." Not a dime. So anyways, getting back to Slaughter, unfortunately, it didn't draw the dimes, like Mike Graham would say. It had potential, but it just didn't draw. Do you remember much about Slaughter's run as champion before Hogan took it off of him?
I do. I remember, again, being from Los Angeles, yes, the original venue for WrestleMania 7 was supposed to be the LA Coliseum. And the LA Coliseum, I believe, holds 80,000, possibly 90,000. Massive stadium. Absolute. I mean, the 84 Olympics were held there. It is an absolute massive stadium of epic proportions, and it is a landmark in Los Angeles. And yes, the event had to get moved to the Los Angeles Sports Arena, where, if you are familiar with basically the entire history of the Los Angeles Clippers, they are a absolute joke of a franchise, and that was the home of the Los Angeles Clippers. the LA Sports Arena.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I believe it might have been in the four digits as far as actual people in the crowd for WrestleMania 7. I would be shocked if it hit 10,000 people. Um, but yeah, I do remember the rain. Um, I also want to go back and say, I loved babyface Nikolai Volkov for some reason. He was like, he's like your uncle that you just like. He's like your uncle who who's a good guy at heart, and you just, but he's always like falling. He's always falling or stumbling or tripping on himself. Yeah, that was babyface Nikolai Volkov. Um, I loved Nikolai. Um, I remember, not to go off topic too much, but like I remember 94, 95 $1 million corporation when Nikolai Volkov sold out, and like he always had this sad, like ashamed look on his face because he was a baby face, right? But he had to make money and he had to sell himself to provide. And yeah, so I love babyface Nikolai Volkov just as much as I love heel Nikolai Volkov, with him and Iron Sheik singing the national anthems before. Like, yeah,
Oh my gosh. Oh
so
yeah.
yeah, Volkov is just the man. I mean, and for all the Jim Cornette fans out there, he always talks about how such a sweetheart and such a good guy Nikolai Volkov was. So yeah, shout out to Nikolai. Um,
Um,
but as far as Slaughter's reign, yeah, I mean he's the true. He's got to be top five, not only just on your this list of worst champions ever, but he's got to be top five of the most transitional of transitional champions there ever could possibly be. Right? Like he there was no way that Hogan was going to beat the Warrior for the belt back. I mean, the word is, to quote Bruce Pritchard, the rumor and innuendo of Vince McMahon regretting putting the belt on Warrior and realizing that he wasn't a draw the way Hogan was, and they had to figure out a way to get the belt back to Hogan. So Hogan versus Warrior in a rematch couldn't have happened. So here comes Slaughter, and hey, shout out to Slaughter because all the threats and stuff like that happened to him because of this angle gimmick character turn, he lived with it. So shout out to Slaughter. But yeah, like I said, he's the actual definition of transitional champion. I mean, he's up there with Ivan Koloff and Stan Stasiak as far as like transitional champion. So yeah.
so I don't know if you have it. I have it. It's the Hulk Hogan like Ultimate Anthology. It's like a 4 disc DVD set, and it was oh my gosh, I'm seeing Doofy Dan. I'm gonna see if I can give him an invite here. Ah, dang it, he just disappeared. Anyways, if he pops up, I'll try again.
Damn.
Uh,
Yeah.
but
I'm gonna keep sending him the invites.
okay,
Um,
but
yeah, I
yes.
do have that. I actually do have that disc.
So there is. Let's see. Let me see if I can invite him here. Okay, I sent him an invite. But yeah. So Doofy, how have you been, buddy?
Yo, I've been in the chat for a minute. I've been trying to get up.
Yeah, I was about to send you an invite. Then you disappeared from the block, and I was like, I told Goblin, I was like, well, he's gone. We'll try again here in a little bit. So,
What's
but
going on?
not much. I'm just doing I'm doing my first ever live stream podcast on TikTok. I'm actually also audio recording it on my laptop to put on my platforms afterwards. So,
Oh, nice.
welcome, as I told Goblin, welcome to the this episode of Grizzly's Cave. And basically, I'm just talking about this screenshot that I took on Facebook several months back about the top 10 worst WWE champions. We were actually finishing up our discussion on number 4, which was Sergeant Slaughter. And but no, Gabi, what I was saying. Well, shit. Oh yeah. So on that anthology DVD, they had an interview with Slaughter prior to them showing the match that they had at WrestleMania 7. Slaughter had actually said that they wanted him to burn the American flag on national television when he was doing a promo with Mean Gene.
Oh,
you know how they would do on Wrestling Challenge or Superstars. They had that platform or whatever that they'd walk up to cut a promo. And Slaughter flat out refused. He said, but I'll take the next best thing. And he took, Hogan's Hulk Rules shirt, put it on the rod of the Iraqi flag, and he lit that ablaze. So I'm going to give props to Slaughter for telling Vince, no, I'm not doing this. But Vince was wanting to go all out with this, and I'll give the man credit for wanting to go all out for a program, but come on, you're burning the flag of the country that we reside in. Hell no. WWF would have probably been shut down at that point. And you mentioned about Hogan and Warrior. I've thought about this too over the years, and I've honestly thought, what if they did do a rematch at WrestleMania 7? Would it have been as great as a WrestleMania 6 match? Probably not. Unless if Hogan called the match, I think it could have done really well. But hindsight's 2020, and looking back, I'm glad they didn't go with it, because Warrior had one of his other greatest matches, and that was against Savage in that retirement match. So I mean, hindsight's 2020.
See, and it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because I always, as great as I love and I love Savage Warrior, and to that same token, I really love Slaughter versus Hogan. I think that's one of Hogan's best, at least late stage WWF matches, and I would argue maybe top 5, top 10 WWF matches that he had. Like, I mean, obviously Hogan Orndorff is like probably his greatest feud. Hogan Savage is probably his best match, like big match, like, because Hogan Andre, it's a big moment, it's a big match, but the match was really slow, very not very thrilling or action packed at all. So yeah, Hogan Savage at 5 is awesome. Hogan Warrior at 6 isn't really all that bad. It gets crapped on, but I think it's for what it is. It was a good match. It was entertaining. But yeah, Hogan Slaughter, like Hogan's a bloody mess, and they go what I think like 19 minutes or something, or maybe north of 20. Like they have a nice long bloody match. So I always look at that match as one of Hogan's overlooked matches of his first run in WWF.
It was a good match. I mean, it was a good match, and you mentioned about Hogan and Andre, and it could have been better if that match had happened a few years earlier, before Andre's health really started, going down at that point. Supposedly Hogan and Andre were supposed to, and this is according to Greg Gagne, which, if the fans have ever listened to his shoot interviews, he came up with this idea, he came up with that idea, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, you really don't know who to believe, because there's been contradicting info about these ideas that Gagne supposedly talked about. These other people said they came up with, but supposedly, according to Greg Gagne, before Hogan jumped ship to Vince, they were planning on bringing in Andre in. It was probably going to be sometime in like February of '84, and they supposedly had a deal worked out. I believe it was with either CBS or ABC. They were going to air a special. and they were going to have Hogan and Andre, as the main event for this particular show. It's all rumor and innuendo, as Pritchard would say, but I think maybe if they would have had a match like that, some kind of main event match for the belt, then that would have been the time to do it. But once WrestleMania 3 came around and Andre, with his health, his back especially, he was very limited on what he could do. And for what he could do, it still it was a decent match. I'll say that,
Yeah.
But
It was okay.
yeah. I mean, it is what it is. God rest Andre's soul.
Yeah.
You could just tell from 87 on, it was just you could tell something was off. It's sad because as a kid, when I watched the Coliseum home videos, I didn't, obviously you didn't know anything about it. But as I got older, then of course with internet and shoot interviews and stuff and all that, then you really find out what was really going on,
Yeah.
So Doofy, before I continue on, I'm going to list off some names, and I'll list off the names to you. So number 10 was Rey Mysterio. Number 9 was Alberto Del Rio.
Makes sense.
Number 8 was Diesel. Number 7 was Goldberg. Number 6 was Cody Rhodes.
Wait for world championships?
They've actually got them listed. Let's see. So Ray, WWE, Del Rio, WWE, Diesel, WWF, Goldberg, Universal,
Yeah.
Cody, WWE,
Okay.
Swagger, World. So if you want to add any insight on any of them or all of them, go right ahead, buddy.
I don't really want to touch Ray because he's my favorite, but I kind of want to. He got screwed over. Not much else to say about that one. He's my favorite wrestler. Man had it for one night.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely yeah. Me and Goblin touched base on that earlier. His world title run that he had in 06. I mean, he just basically got squashed and annihilated all the time. And then his WWE runs, he had either a 1 hour reign or a 5 minute reign.
Yep.
I mean, I know, before Goblin came on, I made the PSA, Vince McMahon, his idea of a champion, you had to be over 6 feet. You had to weigh about 270, 275 pounds, look like a bodybuilder. And that was his idea of a champion. And Rey Mysterio was 5'4", 170 something pounds, give or take. I'm not a Ray guy, but like I said, to Goblin earlier, hands down, one of the greatest high flyers of all time. He's a great worker,
Of course.
But I felt like they really shit on him.
Yeah, bro. Of course they did. Who was there was a couple other people that you said that I wanted to touch base on. You said
Del Rio for WWE,
Okay.
Diesel WWF, Goldberg Universal.
Goldberg. I want to touch on Goldberg.
Go right ahead.
Awesome. Cool. So Goldberg. So this was like before I actually was delving into like history with WWE. So I actually had no idea who Goldberg was when he debuted. So I was like really for Goldberg. And then I did research, and then he took the title off of Kevin Owens, and then my hatred begun. Every single title reign that he had was just a some sort of form of way of pissing off the WWE community. I don't think there was anything else behind it. I don't think there was. And bro, my hatred for Goldberg runs deep. It does. It runs really, really deep. I've talked about it extensively on the IWC. Goblin actually knows this.
See, and if you think about it, Grizz, Doofy is saying, and he wasn't in the room with us that we've been having this conversation for the last hour. He is saying everything we said an hour ago because that's just it's the only way to describe these
It's the
runs.
honest truth.
Like, yeah, there's no other way to describe how poorly booked Goldberg was and Ray was. Like, yeah, they are just so poorly run. Like, there's no, yeah, there's it's again. You can ask strangers and you can ask whole different audiences from hours apart who have no recollection, who we have not swayed their opinion, and they will say the exact same thing. It's just, it's
Of course, if you're a wrestling fan, if you truly are, then you have no compliments towards any Goldberg matches of 2020 forward. Like, or no, even before
26, even yeah. I was about to say 2016. I mean, I touched base on it earlier. I thought, I mean, it was a minute and 32 seconds in that 2016 Survivor Series main event match that he had with Brock Lesnar from bell to bell, 1 minute 32 seconds, and then he squashes Kevin Owens a few months later and becomes the Universal Champion, and then he has a rematch with Lesnar at Mania in 2017, and from bell to bell, it was 4 minutes and 32 seconds.
That's true. I mean, the only match that was like the best Goldberg match during that time was surprisingly him versus Dolph, because at least there was some substance before he got crushed.
See, and you know what? And I'm glad you brought him up, because I was just about to. I was like, it wasn't like he didn't take the title off of him like he did with KO and with Bray Wyatt, but justice for Dolph Ziggler too, because he and again, if you look at that run, Dolph was kind of on a run right there. Like, sure. It was the way they and Grizz, the way you build up baby faces or monsters, right? Like, you feed they quote unquote they feed someone to them, right? They did it with Hogan, right? Akeem, Boss Man, Earthquake, whoever you build up the heels to feed them to your babyface, and the way that these guys were fed to Goldberg, it was just so crazy, because these guys were on runs that were just, Dolph was on a run Dolph was on a good run at there. Bray,
oh my God,
Kevin Owens, like, these guys were on they were potential generational runs, and they were just thwarted by, as to quote Bret Hart, let me tell you about Bill Goldberg, like.
Goldberg was definitely, you mentioned about Slaughter being the transitional champion. Goldberg was that as well, especially with those two Universal runs, because he took the Universal belt off Owens. He did the job for Lesnar at Mania. Same thing 3 years later. He took the belt off The Fiend, and then he dropped it to Strowman at WrestleMania. And I even touched base on this on my Bray Wyatt episodes. If they were going to have Bray drop the belt, they should have just had him drop it to Strowman at WrestleMania, albeit it would have been in front of nobody in live attendance because of the COVID shutdown that happened. But that could have been a better WrestleMania match than Goldberg and Strowman. I mean, come on.
Bro, what was the point? What was the point of having that match be like 30 seconds? All right, look. The Drew match was more satisfying, but they didn't need to have two main events be 30 seconds. They didn't have to do that. Which made any match that Goldberg is involved in is bad. There's no other way around it. There's just not. Yeah. He's like poison.
Yeah. Well, I definitely won't say poison, but I will say that's bad for business. I mean, don't get me wrong. He had one hell of a run back in the 90s with the streak and everything. He was a hot commodity. And even when he went to work for Vince in 2003 and part of 2004, I mean, he had a lot of steam. Like Goblin said, he, in his prime, basically, he had a lot of momentum still going. But I respect the man for wanting to come back after 12 years to try to rectify that last match he had with Lesnar at WrestleMania 20. Definitely loads better. I will say that, even though it was a quick squash. But
True.
anyways,
You know who deserved a title shot, and he deserved a title shot, and I think he was a stand up guy. El Dandy.
For those of you that don't get that reference, I know me and Goblin are showing our ages, but Bret Hart referenced El Dandy a lot back in WCW and stuff as being a standout guy, deserved a title match and stuff and all that. So this is for the younger fans that aren't familiar with that reference. But I do remember that. I still see that if I watch some old YouTube clips or whatever. It's pretty funny.
I always love Mean Gene's response of El Dandy. He's a cruiserweight, and then Brett's response of Who are you to judge El Dandy? Like, oh man, oh man, all the younger listeners, please go just type in Bret Hart El Dandy on YouTube. It's such a great it's just one of many great Mean Gene moments, you know.
All right, so Doofy, did you have any comments about Del Rio or Diesel or Cody?
Cody, I'll comment on Cody because I was actually like really excited and I was rooting for Cody when he came back, and then he got the title and then he didn't defend it. And then he basically did what he said Roman Reigns was doing, and then when he did defend it, it was against the same people, and then he lost the title, and then he won it again, and then he lost the title, and then he won it again, and he lost the title, and then won it again. And I think it's pretty much what's still going on. I think it's probably going to happen again. Yeah, it's like it's a little bit of hell.
So Goblin had actually mentioned to you, Doofy Dan. How about Sammy 9 Days?
Bro, you know what? I actually am glad that Punk took the title off him because, like, I it felt like a gimme. Honestly, it didn't feel real. I felt like they were gonna. I felt like they were gonna cut it off. I did. Like, bro, look. Listen, man. I've rooted for Sammy for a very long time. He's just not doing it for me right now. I'm sorry. Maybe give him some momentum and maybe that'll change. But nah, I think his world title reign would have not gotten much response, to be honest.
Well, and one thing I had stated at the beginning of the podcast, you know, I'm not a Sammy guy, you know, and Doofy, you know. Just like Goblin knows, I'm a Warrior and Taker guy.
Yeah.
But Sami Zayn is a good worker, really good worker.
I'll never put that down, ever.
And he's been in this business for 25, 26 years, and he's been in the WWE for a very long time. And I was actually happy that he got his moment.
Me too.
I really think it's shitty the way they pissed it away, the way they did.
Yeah.
And having him drop it to Punk. But this is not uncommon in WWE. Prime example, and Goblin, you'll remember this, back in 2011 when Christian won the World Heavyweight title in a ladder match against Alberto Del Rio.
Yeah, I remember.
5 days later, Randy Orton wound up taking the belt off of him.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, me and some guys at work, we refer to Cody Rhodes as Cody Hogan, which apparently that's kind of sweeping worldwide as well amongst other fans. So
yeah, I honestly, I don't know. The matches that Cody had when he first came back, like before he actually got the title, they were really good. They were like very consistent. All the matches he had with Seth were pretty damn good. Even the matches he had with Brock were pretty decent. and then he won the title, and then it all went downhill.
Me personally, I mean, I believe I believe he has good matches, and he had good matches in AEW. I'm more of a fan of his work when he did work for New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Oh, I agree. Oh, I loved him in New Japan, bro. Oh my god, he had great matches in AEW though. Like I did when I was watching the clips of AEW and watching some of the matches. Most of them were Cody's, and Cody really impressed me in that. Did you see Possessed Cody Rhodes? Like in the Indies, he was like just saying random WWE facts, and he had like white eyes, bro. When you get the chance, look up Possessed Cody Rhodes. It's amazing.
I will definitely. You definitely piqued my interest. I'll have to definitely give that a look.
Dude, he's like Stone Cold won the Royal Rumble this year. Like he just said.
What? Man, you as much as you say, bro, I keep thinking I got Vince Russo on my podcast. I swear, bro. Oh, me. Good thing Cornette wasn't on here. Heck, if he heard bro, he'd be cutting a big, massive promo right now. All right, so the other guys you don't have much to say about, like Del Rio or Diesel, which if I'm not.
They were a tiny bit before my time, a little bit. Like
I was about to say, because you're in your 20s, right?
I am 24.
Okay, so yeah, Diesel was way before your time then. Okay, so we'll go ahead and segue into our number 3. I can't even believe this man even had the belt around his waist, but none other than Mr. Vincent Kennedy McMahon himself. That's good shit, pal. It didn't even mention his ECW championship reign, but we'll definitely mention about that. So if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was 1999. Let's see, Triple H he was still being referred to as Helmsley, but he had started slowly drifting into Triple H. And he had his first title reign, and it wasn't a pay-per-view. I want to say it was like on a Raw or a SmackDown. McMahon came back as a babyface after he had stepped down, after the summer of 99 when Austin defeated Taker in a first blood match to basically end the McMahon-Austin rivalry. Well, about a couple months later, McMahon shows up, and he's a babyface all of a sudden, and he has a match with Triple H. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Stone Cold wound up knocking out Triple H with a chair or hit him with a stunner or both, and McMahon pins him and becomes the champion. Other than Vern Gagne or Cowboy Bill Watts, that were wrestlers that become promoters, I could understand those two guys, but what the fuck, Vince McMahon becoming the WWF champion? Guys, can y'all please help this make sense? Because like my best friend would say, it doesn't make sense.
Grizz, what year was it?
1999, when Vince won the WWF championship.
Yeah, it's I mean, it was storyline. And again, as far in the history books, yes, he was the world champion. But I will forgive it. I'll forgive it because it was just an angle and a storyline. Does it say how long his reign was? I don't even know how long his reign was.
On the list, it actually doesn't give me a number. It doesn't give me a time. It doesn't give me like a length of time and stuff. It's just got them listed. I appreciate it, Doofy.
Yeah. I especially if you look at, and we all know the Attitude Era. Kane had a 24-hour title reign. If you look at like 99, and I think especially 2000, look at how many times the title was changed. I saw something. There was a good run. I don't know if it was like summer of 2000 or something like that. Vince McMahon held the title for 39 days. Yes. See, I feel like that it's forgivable because of the era, but also, like I said, I know there was a maybe like a 3 month period or a 6 month period somewhere in either, I want to say it was 2000, where like the title, they were saying something like when you break down all the title changes, it was like basically the title changed hands every like 3 weeks or something like that. Like, so, um, yeah, it belongs on the list, but for me, it's too high just because. I mean, it was also the same year he won the Royal Rumble. So I mean, you know,
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
so
Oh.
I and again, him winning the Royal Rumble, it wasn't him. I believe it was. I forgot who it was. Right? They said he's one of two people, three people that only eliminated one person to win the Royal Rumble. Um,
That's
so
crazy as all hell.
yeah, so like I said, if you look at 99, 99 was a crazy year, and it's wild because we look back on it and say how nonsensical it was, but anybody who grew up in that era, we were glued to that TV every Monday night. The minute a commercial break happened, we were switching to Nitro, and
Yep.
then we were switching back to Raw and switching to Nitro and switching back to Raw. Um, it was the actual definition of must see TV. Like we had to watch Monday Night Raw every Monday. We had to watch Nitro. I mean, even in the beginning, we had to watch Thunder and we had to watch Thursday Night SmackDown. So, um, yeah, I'll forgive Vince McMahon for this one. Like I said, it belongs on the list, but I think it's more at the bottom of the list just because I'm sure if we break down why he won it, like you said, you broke down how he won it and how he loses it and the subsequent 39 days. I can guarantee you it was all plot line, storyline, and just a way to create a hot angle.
If I'm not mistaken, that would have happened around the time frame that Doofy Dan's role model, Vince Russo, was still the head writer for WWF. And if you remember correctly, 1 year later, Vince Russo was the WCW World Heavyweight Champion. So I think this was some Doofy Dan's idol, Vince Russo's booking in regards to putting the belt on Vince, at least at that time frame.
Could be a possibility there.
But so that, but Goblin, you mentioned about Vince winning the Rumble in '99. Oh my gosh. Okay, so if it was Vern Gagne, Cowboy Bill Watts, the late Eddie Graham, these other wrestlers that became promoters, I could understand that.
Fritz.
But okay, now I will say in regards to the storyline between Austin and McMahon, in this case, it made sense. And it was really I don't know what's more comical. Vince walking out as the number 2 entrant, he's shirtless and Jerry Lawler's really putting him over, basically how good a shape that Vince is in. Cause they had those vignettes of Vince training for the Rumble and stuff and all that. Very Rocky Balboa-esque. Unfortunately, Vince couldn't lace Rocky's shoes, but
yeah, with Shane. Shane was his trainer. Shane O'Mac was his trainer.
That's proud.
Yes, bro. That was awesome. And then, Jerry Lawler's talking about how, Shane McMahon's created a monster and stuff. Look at those pecs. Look at them arms, And I'm honestly thinking that sounds like something Vince would have said. So I'm thinking maybe Vince gave Lawler a pre-written script of what to say during Vince's entrance. I don't know. But I'm not going to lie. Vince McMahon was in good shape, throughout his life. But as Cornette would have said, that's what happens when you take growth hormones or steroids, but especially when you're at that age. But I think the funniest thing that happened was, well, no, there was other funny things, but Vince came back. This time he had a sweatshirt on. He went back to the commentator's desk and he's commentating the Royal Rumble match while the Royal
Yes.
Rumble match is still going. and then and then it gets down to the final two, Vince and Austin. And then, of course, we know Vince winds up tossing Austin over due to a distraction from The Rock. And then, Vince, I mean, he just acts like he was in that ring for 65 minutes, and is just exhausted. They're holding him up. They start playing the No Chance in Hell music. This was the first time Vince ever started using this theme, was after he won the Rumble. And then I think he was calling for some beers, to make fun of Austin. And you hear Michael Cole, because JR wasn't commentating at this point, but he's like, "Oh, would you look at that? Now Vince is calling for a beer." And they're tossing him beers, and him and the Stooges, and, they're toasting the beer and swigging it down and all. And that was just some good stuff back in the day, I swear. Oh man, it's fun to reminisce over this stuff. Exhausted Goblin Inc.
No, yeah, I love the Royal Rumble '99. I was on a live, I don't know, a month ago, 2 months ago, and they were talking about best Royal Rumbles, and like I said, how much I love '99, and all these kids weren't even alive when '99 happened, and they're like, "'99 is terrible. It's a stupid Royal Rumble." And it's like, bro. You guys have no idea how funny that Royal Rumble is. I was like, that is one of the most hilarious Royal Rumbles of all time.
That was also when Gilbert made his Royal Rumble debut.
That is what
And who are y'all to judge a guy like Gilbert? He should have had a world championship match at WrestleMania, by God. So fast forward about 8 years later to 2007, and Vince wins the ECW championship from Bobby Lashley.
An amazing title run. From a internet culture, meme culture, pop culture standpoint, do-rag Vince McMahon is an absolute menace to society and is one of the greatest creations that Titan Sports ever created. Do-rag Vince is an absolute maniac. I love do-rag Vince.
What the oh my gosh. So you're going to laugh at me on this, but I've worn a do-rag before, back about 4 years earlier. I would see my buddies wearing bandanas or do-rags working out. So I had a couple of do-rags.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say, I'm going to say, and of course I was 17 years old at the time when I started working out. I didn't know any better. And I got some looks from some people wearing a do-rag. So needless to say, I didn't wear them anymore. I'd wear a bandana here and there. But do-rag Vince, come on, man. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Dressed up like a corporate stooge and wearing a do-rag. It didn't make any sense. I didn't see the point in him being an ECW champion. And I mean, with all due respect, I mean, that I personally thought it devalued the championship, because you got to think of the people that held it before. And I'm talking even before Bobby Lashley, RVD, Mike Awesome, Taz, Sandman, Mikey Whipwreck. I mean, all Vince did was just shit on that legacy. And to quote Joey Styles, to inflate his ego. That's what I believe.
Yep. Yeah. There's nothing to say. There's nothing to say.
Doofy, you got anything to add on do-rag Vince as ECW champion?
I one of the first things I saw when I got into wrestling was do-rag Vince. So I might have to actually stand by do-rag Vince, if I'm being honest. I think it was funny. I think it was funny. That's all I got on the on the topic. I went down like a rabbit hole of just videos and memes and all these things when I first started watching. So like, yeah, yeah.
Fair enough. So that's two strikes against you. You've said bro to pay homage to Vince Russo. Strike two, you're standing by do-rag Vince. just messing with you, all right, so we'll get out of that train wreck and we'll move on to number two, the Great Khali. World heavyweight champion. This was back in 2007 as well. I'm not gonna bash Khali. His mobility was not good, and you guys know as well as I do, he was there because he was like the late Andre the Giant. He was an attraction. He was a big burly guy. But he couldn't move around all that well. And Andre had like about a 5-minute run with the WWF Championship back in '88. Khali had about a 2 or 3 month run with the World Heavyweight Championship. He had a couple of title defenses. I don't know if Vince was thinking maybe have this big monster heel champion. I don't know if that was his mindset, but it was just bad for business. Would you guys like to add on to that?
Vince just wanted some of that sweet, sweet Hindu money, like it really was. And I'm assuming number one is who's pictured behind you.
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel like they come together. They're two sides of the same coin. It's just, you mentioned it about Del Rio earlier, just trying to capture the Hispanic market. That's all the Great Khali was, and Jinder Mahal, who, spoiler alert, is probably going to be number one.
No, really?
Yeah. I think, again, and we've talked about it with Del Rio, and I mean even with Vince right now. These are business decisions. This isn't what's best. This is a what's best for business, pal. Like this is like let's try to capitalize and try to gain a foothold in a new market, which they have actually. Because if you look back, I think it's even as earlier as recent as this year or possibly last year. The WWE did something. I don't know if it was in India or somewhere in Asia, and the Great Khali was involved with it as like an ambassador, and he's still super famous and super known, and he's an absolute like legend of his country. So, yeah, I again, as a wrestling fan, we all know what it is. We know what these moves are. These aren't. I think it's just a problem with some of these guys like Khali, Jinder, Del Rio, McMahon himself. Is in the annals of history, they go down as world champion, WWE champion. When guys like Kurt Hennig, Roddy Piper, Jake Roberts,
Ted DiBiase,
Rick Rude, Scott Hall, like these guys were never world champions, and I think that's really where what it comes down to is it's the guys who didn't hold that title really shine the light on the guys that did win it, and you just go, really? So yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about Jinder or Khali.
And the thing with Khali is, when he first debuted in '06, I mean, he was a behemoth. I mean, he was he was the biggest he ever was. As the years went on, he wasn't as big of a beast, as he was when he debuted, but I mean, 7'3", 420, 425, whatever. I mean, you could probably hit the man with the truck in the truck, and he wouldn't. You couldn't hurt him, but the truck would be smashed all to bits, you know. And he was a sight to see, most definitely. And I know WWE's big on the entertainment, but I'm going to quote Cornette. You know, it's World Wrestling Entertainment. Why don't we have some wrestling in it, Vince? You know. Yeah, man. And I forgot I didn't mention that earlier, but yeah, I think Vince was trying to tap into that market even in the 2000s, which that's going to segue us into our number one. Doofy, did you have anything that you want to add about Kali?
I mean, it's kind of reiterating what has already been said. You know, you can't hate on Kali too much just because of how big he was and how restricted he was because of that.
Right.
So, you know, like there's some slack there. I you know, as like on a technical side, obviously because of that, he wasn't great in ring, but
Right.
like, you know, I feel like it was just a money grab to give him the title. Like a Big Show, there was an interview with Big Show, and he said a big man doesn't need to win a title, like to kind of show that they're tough and they're dominant. They don't need to win a title, but I feel like they just gave it to him because of the market and because he was big and just right there. So
Now, I will say this: the way he won it through a battle royal, actually. So I think that was a good way to showcase him and to get him into that spot. You know, so I definitely won't take anything away from that by no means. No. It's just the matches he had after. Well, and even the matches he had for the rest of his career, they were as good as they were going to be, just because, again, the mobility, couldn't move around all that great. You definitely was not going to see him go to the top rope and do a flying clothesline like Kane or Undertaker, you know. So
I would have liked to see that, though, if I'm being honest. I'd pay good money to see that.
If he would have done that, I tell you what, that crowd would have erupted.
A botch or succeed, they would have it would have freaked out.
All right, so we talked about Kali and Goblin. You mentioned it, and well, actually, it's been a spoiler alert since I started this episode. But number one, according to this particular list that I screenshotted, the worst WWE champion ever is none other than Jinder Mahal. So, we could give a little history. So, folks, Jinder Mahal came to WWE around 2010, 2011. He started out at NXT, and he eventually made his way to the main roster. He had some pretty cool entrance music, because I got to see hit there. I forgot what he was referred to. Goblin, thank you for typing that. The modern day Maharaja. And he, I did get a chance to see him live and I have it on one of my earlier episodes of Grizzly's Cave, folks. It was, I think it was my fourth live event that I got to see. It was in 2012, the day before the 2012 Royal Rumble. He opened up the match, opened up the show with Sheamus, who ironically wound up winning the 2012 Royal Rumble. It was a good match, but they didn't really do much with him. And then they paired him up with Heath Slater and Drew McIntyre and eventually Hornswoggle, and they were the three-man band, which I actually loved that run. Unfortunately, 3MB was at that time the modern day Job Squad. Let's just be real. And
isn't it wild that Drew McIntyre was part of that group? Like,
yes.
When you look back at it now, like, isn't that wild?
And you got to remember, guys, and also to the listeners, when McIntyre came to the company in 08, 09, he was, Vince's chosen one, supposedly. Mm-hmm. And that went down the tubes not too long after that. And then he eventually became went into 3MB. What I think is crazy is in June of 2014. Roman came, which they'd already been destroyed by Brock Lesnar. So then they had Roman come out a week or so later, and he wrecked all three of them. And then Jinder and Drew both got released. And we all know Drew eventually found success elsewhere. He found success in TNA as Drew Galloway. Then he eventually came back, and I'd say he's definitely had a more successful run this time than what he had his first. But Jinder Mahal comes back in 2017. He came back to zero reaction. Zero reaction. Any reaction, any reaction is a good reaction, pal. He had zero. Okay. Now, granted, he looked different. He got himself into better shape. And you guys may not have known this, but there was it was a wrestling headline article or whatever, or Ringside News. Some people compared his physique transformation to almost embodying the Ultimate Warrior. And no offense, but Warrior was a lot bigger than Jinder. But anyways, I digress. He comes back to zero reaction. All of a sudden, he is in a feud with the champion at the time, which was Randy Orton. And then the title change heard around the world happened. Jinder Mahal defeats Randy Orton to become the WWE champion. I remember watching that match with my buddies, and we all shit our pants figuratively when that happened, but we were just shocked just as much as the fans were. And he did get a reaction. I will say this: Jinder got a big reaction when he won. And then his title reign happened. He had a couple of rematches with Orton. One of them was the Punjabi prison match, which the Great Khali wound up making an appearance at and costing Orton the match. And then he had a couple of matches with Shinsuke Nakamura. And then a few months later, he wound up dropping it to AJ Styles. Thank God. But when Nakamura challenged him, I thought, okay, this is going to be it for this championship reign, because Nakamura was red hot at that time. And all of a sudden, he's doing the job for Jinder both times. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? This guy went from being, I hate to even use the word, I'm not even going to use it, but I'm just going to say he was a low card guy, and all of a sudden he's main event and he's winning the belt. But it turns out, like you said earlier, Goblin, Vince was trying to tap into that market in India really badly. So anyways, I'll hush for a second. You guys can add on to you guys can add on to that or whatever you got to say.
I'll touch on Jinder first, if that's fine by you, Mr. Goblin.
I mean, it's not, but go ahead.
Oh, I appreciate your honesty. That's really all that matters. I had a feeling it was going to go that way. I remember when Jinder won the title, and I was like just expecting it to just go to Randy, and then I think I like dropped my bottle of water on the ground, and it was very dramatic for the whole room. Like, and the only two things that really just burned in my brain was Shinsuke and the Punjabi prison match. That Punjabi prison match was a lot to process like all at once, and I tried to give it a shot, like I really did. And good on them for trying to make it like an entertaining match. And then when the Great Khali came out, got no reaction. I was just laughing. That was one of the funniest matches. I gotta give it that. That was one of the most funny matches.
And Khali didn't even come out to his music. He came out to Jinder Mahal's music. What the hell?
Yeah, bro. What happened to his music? His music. I actually liked the Great Khali's music. I'm not even gonna lie about that.
We talking the original music or the Punjabi Playboy music?
Is I think the Punjabi Playboy music, the one with the red pants music. It was goofy, bro. I like the goofy one, bro. I like it. I like both of them. But I don't know why, bro. I like the goofiness.
Oh man.
If you want a reaction and you want to come out to the right music, you got to cue up Muhammad Hassan's theme song because, man, that honestly, like, obviously, it's tainted with the whole gimmick of everything that happened and the angle and everything. But if you just put that song on, oh, you know why it got heat. It's just it's a heat magnet from like the first second of play. Muhammad Hassan had the greatest uh heel theme song in like SmackDown history. But I digress. I don't want to make this about Muhammad. Um, the the gender the gender title run was I I don't even know what you people just kind of I think in the not only just in hindsight but looking at it in the moment people were just kind of chuckling and laughing about it. It was just because it was almost so preposterous that it was just like like let's keep rooting for it and let's see how long they can pull it off because we know it's not doing anything for them numbers wise,
No,
anything. So it's like, yeah, we're gonna make you live with your decision and we're gonna root for Jinder and we're gonna be like, yeah, let's go Jinder, just to stick it to you and be like, see, this is what you get for thinking you're cool. um and what, like what Doofy said, you almost gotta just you drop your water and you're just kind of like, what, like, um
it almost didn't make sense. Like, not even almost. It didn't make sense. It just didn't. Like, it was just you had to like suspend belief once he won the title. Like,
Right.
see, and like what we've talked about with Kali, right? It made sense the first time because you were breaking ground in a new territory, right?
True.
Um, this time with Jinder, they already had a they already had a fan base in India. They had already done house shows and tours in India because of Kali and things like that. So it's not like this was a we're trying to capture this market. It made absolutely no sense.
No.
But the two people I think that get the most that should get the most credit for that run is Randy Orton for just being a team guy and willing to do the job for Jinder. Not only did I mean Randy has clearly shown that he's not afraid to lose a title. Um, the Jinder one was the obvious one, but also a few years back, before that, when he lost to Mark Henry, like for to finally give Mark Henry his world heavyweight title run, was great. And that was another one that Randy lost that I was like, oh shit, he lost. Like, damn. So shout out to Randy for kickstarting the title run. But also shout out to Brock Lesnar for saying, fuck no, I'm not working with Jinder Mahal at SummerSlam Survivor Series.
Yo.
And basically forcing the WWE's hand to drop the belt to AJ Styles, and we got an amazing match at Survivor Series. What was that? 2016,
2017.
2017. That was a great Survivor Series match between AJ and Brock. Like, Brock beat the crap out of AJ in that match. Like, that match was awesome.
Yeah, that's one of AJ's best matches in WWE, in my opinion.
I was actually going to say that current day Brock Lesnar, that match we had with AJ, hands down one of his best, and longest matches, mind you, as well. But yeah, I was actually going to mention that. I was going to mention that about Brock, but Goblin, I'm glad you mentioned it. But because you got to think, if we would have had Jinder versus Brock at Survivor Series, I mean, let's just be real. That match would have been a couple of minutes of Brock just throwing Jinder around and then F5ing him and then, taking it home. And I'm glad that Brock did speak up, because Brock is kind of like Andre the Giant. Brock's not going to do something if he don't want to do it. I mean, let's just be real. I mean, not many people are going to force Brock Lesnar to do anything he don't want to do, unless if you want to threaten him with like lawsuits or shit like that. But the only thing I will say is, yes, I'm glad AJ won the title, but it would have been better if it was on a pay-per-view. I think they could have probably drawn a little bit more money that way, but you got to think AJ beat him in November. Ironically, that was for the same month as Survivor Series, so they had a little time. They had a little time to do that, make that switch. So, but yeah, I hated that for Jinder, because after he lost the title, he pretty much sunk back down the card.
Oh yeah, it wasn't even like any sort of like wait times. Went straight back down.
Mm-hmm.
For the record, in my WWE 2K, I usually keep him at the top of the card.
well, Goblin, we appreciate you doing that. So, but I know we've met. I know I made an honorable mention about Christian. Is there any honorable mentions that y'all would like to say in regards to worst WWE champions ever? I've still got about 45 more minutes left on Spotify, because I'm only allotted 3 hours in regards to uploading an episode. So if y'all can name as many as you like.
I mean, if we're going to include, like, I don't want to say other promotions, but at least ones WWE owns. The obvious ones, like you mentioned earlier, Vince Russo, David Arquette, and again, we don't need to dive into them. There's been Dark Side of the Rings episodes made about these decisions, but as far as like mainline WWE, I mean, probably like the 3-day reign of Bob Backlund in '94.
Oh yeah.
That was just again, and that was what Brett wanting to go film Lonesome Dove or something like that. Or no, that wasn't even. That was '96 when he wanted to film Lonesome Dove. Yeah, that was just a weird decision. Again, just to get the belt off of Brett to give to Diesel. I don't know. So Backlund for sure. He's one of my personal favorites, but you probably kind of can potentially have an honorable mention just because the run wasn't worth a damn, and the storylines the storyline that he was in was involving other people, and that's really what kept the interest. Would we have to be like the late '96, early '97 run of Psycho Sid? Because I mean the fatal 4-way and the match on Monday Night Raw against Brett, him losing it to Shawn in San Antonio, him beating Shawn at Madison Square Garden, which is anybody who is listening wants to see a crowd absolutely turn on their champion, and what WWE dubs now as like Bizarro World or whatever they call it. Go back to Survivor Series '96 and watch the new. I mean, one, it's New York, Madison Square Garden, but watch the crowd absolutely turn on their world champion and be like, "Dude, you suck. We do not like you. We want to see you get pummeled." And Psycho Sid winning the title in MSG was an amazing all-time classic crowd. But yeah, I would probably have to mention, at least, like I said, honorable mention to Sid in '97, because the whole, like I said, the Four Corners match, the match on Raw, all that stuff, the highlights of that was leading up to Brett and Austin at WrestleMania 13. So, yeah, and then obviously the WrestleMania 13 match with Undertaker was very lackluster. So, Yeah, I would say that those for sure.
I don't know what you're talking about. That was a grisly 7-star match. By God, no. Yeah, man. I remember watching that match. Last time I watched it was 3 years ago, and yeah, just the whole match. I mean, the crowd's cheering for the heel. They're booing the baby face, and the crowd erupted when Sid won.
Hmm.
And he had a successful title defense against Bret Hart the following In Your House pay per view. It's time, which ironically that was supposed to be for Vader.
Yep.
Vader was supposed to be the one to beat Michaels at Survivor Series and then drop it back to Shawn at the Royal Rumble in San Antonio. Well, because of Shawn's little stunt he pulled at SummerSlam '96, that killed any momentum for Vader at that point. But yeah, Sid was unfortunately a transitional champion. Uh, well, and you mentioned Backlund, so who took the belt off Backlund back in '83? The Iron Sheik.
Hmm.
And who did Sheiky Baby drop it to in '84? Hulk Hogan.
You know, one last one because it's already. I'm about to jump off because it's already getting late. But
Sure.
Yeah, me too, probably.
one last honorable mention that might be a hot take, especially, and I'm talking about the WWF run with the world title, Ric Flair, and it might be controversial, but Ric Flair's WWF world title run, both of them. I mean, WrestleMania 8 with Savage is amazing. That's a great match.
Yes.
And again, we wrestling fans talk about the what if of Hogan versus Flair at a WrestleMania. And I get it, right? It's WrestleMania, Hogan versus Flair, the two biggest names ever, blah blah blah. Um, but but Savage and Flair had an amazing match. That match was awesome. Savage was bloody. I think it was Savage that was bloody. Or was it Flair? One of them was,
Flair.
yeah.
Flair.
Flair's bleeding. As he does. But outside of that, what what's Flair's two WWF title reigns? What are they? You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
don't. Again, it may be a hot take. It may not be, but honestly, Ric Flair as the WWF champion was, I mean, what was it? And I think it's because he set the bar so high during the entire '80s decade with Funk and Steamboat and Dusty and Koloff, and
Sting.
yeah, and Sting and everybody, right? Like, so Barry Windham, Luger, everything. Ric Flair is Ric Flair, and Cornette has said it right. In Ric Flair's prime, in the middle of his prime, '85, Ric Flair was a Hall of Famer in the middle of his prime. Like
Right.
he was already considered the greatest in his prime. So I think he had set the bar so high with the big gold belt and the NWA title and all that. So, and I think ultimately Vince didn't know how to book him. Vince didn't know how to book him. And
Mm-mm.
again, I know we keep talking about Cornette, but and Cornette has said it. He talks about working with on creative with Vince in during the Attitude Era in the '90s and stuff. Uh, Vince gets the credit for being a booker, and Cornette has said it. Vince wasn't a booker. Vince didn't know how to book.
Mm-mm.
Vince knew how to get from point A, or at least he knew where he wanted to get. He knew what point B was supposed to be, and he let Cornette and Russo and Patterson and Briscoe. He let them get there, but he
Mm-hmm.
knew ultimately what he wanted the end goal to be. So that's the misconception of Vince. Vince wasn't a booker. Vince was a promoter.
Mm-hmm.
Vince was Don King and Bob Arum, and he was those guys. He wasn't a booker. He wasn't Dusty. He wasn't Bill Watts. He wasn't those guys. So Yeah,
Right.
I just think he didn't know how to book Flair.
No, he didn't, and yeah, Flair, yeah, and I gotta agree. His WWF Championship runs, both of them, were very lackluster and very short. And you would think with his first one, when he wanted it, when he won the belt in the '92 Royal Rumble match, you would think that that would set a, that it was he was set to really have a pretty good run. Now I could understand him keeping the belt up until that match he had with Brett in Saskatoon in October of '92. I could see him holding it till then. One thing I will say about the Savage Flair match, that was probably the best match of the night, and it was the fifth match. It was a WWF Championship match was a mid card match. How does that make any sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not knocking Hogan or Sid, God rest both their souls, but that match should not have been the main event. I mean, semi main, I could understand, I could see that, but
And it's funny because when you look at that, when you look at eight, they had three at the very least three amazingly great wrestling matches because you had Shawn and Rick Martel. Obviously, you had Savage and Flair, but you had Brett and Roddy. And Brett and Roddy is an absolute master class of in-ring storytelling, ring psychology. Roddy Piper finally losing for the first time in 15 years or something like that, or a decade, whatever it was. Yeah, there was some great wrestling on that card, and I think that was really the telltale sign for Vince to see that, okay, Hogan is passe at that point. By '92, Hogan was the concept of Hulkamania was a passing moment already.
right, yeah. And I know that Hogan and Flair did have a bunch of house show matches, and rumor and innuendo was that those matches were not drawing, or as Mike Graham would say, not a dime. They were drawing, just not as much as I guess Vince had anticipated, and there's rumor and innuendo that neither one wanted to do the job for the other. I mean, you got to think you're taking the top two. Okay, so you got your top guy from WWF, and at the time, the top guy from NWA, WCW, whatever you want to refer to it as. It's going to be hard for one of them to lay down for the other and do the job. And as you just typed, that don't work for me, brother. But I mean, even if Hogan and Flair did main event that Mania, I mean, would it have been a good match?
I don't think so, because I think it would have been Bash at the Beach '94, or it would have been Bash at the Beach '94 2 years earlier. It would have been Bash at the Hoosier Dome. So it wouldn't have been. Go ahead.
I was about to say I thought it looked like Free Snake was wanting to come on here. I'll tap an invite for him.
Oh, see, perfect. Freeze. As he's here, and we'll let Doofy say his honorable mentions and everything. I am going to bow out.
After I say mine, I'm gonna probably dip too. It is 3 a.m. for me.
Goblin, Doofy Dan, thank you both for being on Grizzly's Cave. It was an absolute honor and a pleasure to have you both. And I definitely need to do this again, because this is actually the first 2.5 hour program I've done in a very long time, and it's good to have it with guests. So it was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for joining. Greatly appreciate it. And y'all are welcome anytime. So
of course, man, I appreciate it. Grizz, again, you're one of the few people on this platform that I enjoy talking to, because you actually know wrestling. So yeah, man, I mean, anytime you're live, please feel free to invite me. I'm always up for a conversation with you, man.
Will do,
thank
brother.
Thank you for bringing me up on the podcast, man.
You're more than welcome, guys. Thank you both for being on the podcast. I definitely appreciate it, guys. All right, you guys take it easy. I'm gonna chat up Freeze a little bit.
All right.
All right, see you guys. Free Snake, welcome to Grizzly's Cave.
What's up? How you been? It's been months,
I've been
haven't it?
doing. I've been doing pretty good, man. Yeah. It's been a while. This was kind of a spur of the moment decision. I decided I'm going to not only audio record my podcast, but I'll do stream it on TikTok. I tried doing it through Streamlabs to go through Twitch and TikTok, but it kept giving me errors. I was like, well, screw this. That don't work for me, brother. So I'm going to just do it on TikTok. And lo and behold, Goblin was watching the episode, and then invited him on. Then Doofy came on, and then I saw you were wanting to come on. So got to have Free Snake on here, buddy. So
Lots of people.
how have you been?
I've been good. I haven't been on TikTok. Well, I have been on, but like later hours because I like soccer, so I've been watching the World Cup
Oh, okay, I got
for like
you.
this whole month. So they had more matches. They had like 48 teams. So almost every
Really?
day they had three soccer matches.
Oh,
Fuck.
wow.
It was a lot. No, it was great. But I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm used to maybe one, two matches a day, not
hmm
three, where I'm like, damn, that's like the whole afternoon.
Now, did you ever play soccer?
Yes.
You
Hmm.
did? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot about the sport. I never played it. I just know basically the goalie and the others can kick it and they can't touch it with their hands. So, like, what was your position?
Oh, me, I was just like a midfielder.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes goalie, but I hate lunging for the ball, so like, F that, I'll just stick to defense or
Uh,
midfield.
sure. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll chat you up to speed. I've got about 25 minutes left on my audio recording because Spotify will only allot me 3 hours.
Oh, okay.
So I've been so basically the what you see in the background, that's a screenshot that I found on Facebook. I've actually got a second screenshot which I may do another podcast on at another time.
Mm.
Basically about the top 10 worst WWE champions. We already went through the list, but I'll go through the list with you. And any comments you have, feel free to chime in. But
All right.
number 10 was Rey Mysterio as WWE champion. Alberto Del Rio at number 9 as WWE champion.
Hmm.
Diesel at number 8 as WWF champion. Goldberg, number 7 as Universal champion. Let's see. Doofy had quite a few comments on that. It was pretty funny.
Oh, bird.
That's right. Cody Rhodes at number 5 for
Holy shit.
WWE, or Cody Hogan, whichever you want to call him.
Oh, I'm like, they
And
took Koga. Keep going. I want to hear the list first, and then I'll
uh,
commentate.
Jack Swagger for World Champion.
Hmm.
Let's see. Sergeant Slaughter, WWF Champion. Mr. McMahon
Oh
as
yeah,
WWF champion, but we also talked about his ECW run. The Great Khali, World Heavyweight Champion, and then Jinder Mahal at number 1 as WWE champion. So
he's number
any
one for the most disliked or bad.
just the worst WWE champion, Jinder
Well,
Mahal.
I mean, I would change that. I put him number two because I would put Sammy there, Mister 9 Days. Dude, what the hell? Even when he won, I was like, what the hell are they doing? I was like,
How's it
yeah,
going,
give him
man?
a pop. But then,
Hey, what's up, Chris? Awesome. How you been,
I put
buddy? Sorry,
Sammy.
Freeze. I didn't mean to cut you off there, buddy.
It's okay. It's okay.
Chris, Awesome. This is Free Snake. He's one of my buddies that I chat with from time to time on TikTok about wrestling.
How's it going, man?
He just joined me on this episode of Grizzly's Cave. I decided to stream it on TikTok. So we're just talking about top 10 WWE or top 10 worst WWE champions. And Freeze, you said you would switch out Jinder Mahal as number 1 and replace that with Sami Zayn, right?
Hell yeah, 9 days. Or do you think he's gonna win it back in the next couple of months?
Well, and I told Doofy Dan and I told Goblin, I said I was happy that he got his moment
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
because he'd been with that company for so long and he's been in the business for a long time. He
yeah.
earned and deserved that moment,
Hmm.
but they
Hmm.
took it
Yep.
away from him as
Me
quick as they
too.
gave
I
it
like
to him.
that.
No, I agree. It's like they give it and then they shout, "Take it." You know what I mean? It's like that type of thing.
Yeah, and you mentioned 9 days. Christian, he was world champion for
5, right?
literally 5 days. Yes, sir.
Randy
Yes,
Orton, I
sir.
think.
Yep, Randy Orton. Good old Randy.
Oh,
But let's see. We talked about transitional champions such as Bob Backlund. He lost the
oh yeah.
belt within a week after he beat Bret Hart. And I mentioned Iron Sheik when he defeated Backlund back in '83, and then Sheik dropped the belt to Hogan. It's just yeah. So you don't think Jinder Mahal was the worst WWE champion, huh?
But after what happened with Sammy, that whole thing, making me like, okay, maybe he might. For me, like I told Doofy, like I never thought of him as a draw. No, if I was gonna give him the belt, I would have done it at that what was it? The one in Montreal when he was facing Roman Reigns. I forgot what it was called. Elimination Chamber. I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I do remember them facing off. It might have been Chamber.
Yeah, because they had the build, the heat, the fans were with Sammy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
The crowd was going nuts, and I'm like, just give it to them there, and then make them lose it in a month or something to Roman again.
Yeah, because Sammy was a part of the bloodline at one point, and then a couple months later, that would have made sense. That would have made perfect sense.
But they wanted to do the stat stuffing for Roman Reigns. What was it, 4 or was it 1,400? I forgot how many days he was champion.
It was a long time. I think Goblin said 4 years whenever Cody finally ended it. Because Roman got it late of 2020, like maybe September, I think, of 2020, and then he lost it at April of 24. So I mean, a little under 4 years, but close enough.
That's crazy. That Monday Night Raw when CM Punk won. Like Goblin posted a picture of side by side of WrestleMania 9. He put Cody as Bret, and then he put CM Punk as Hogan. When he like, go get him, I'm like, oh my god, it felt like that to me. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, man, and I guess we might as well mention that because you mentioned WrestleMania 9, and we'll give this as an honorable mention. But the late Rodney Anuai, Yokozuna, literally had the belt for 5 minutes, and this was before the Money in the Bank cash-ins ever happened. That was awful. Yokozuna, he brought in as a monster heel. He wins the '93 Royal Rumble. And Chris, thank you for the gifts, by the way. I appreciate that.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, man. And then Hogan comes out and just as a last minute split decision, freaking beats Yoko in an impromptu match, and then pretty much killed off Yoko's momentum. And now, granted, he picked it back up at King of the Ring '93, but I mean, Vince, what the hell, man?
I know. Well, they're like, oh, Hogan never, buried anybody. I'm like, live. Did you see the documentary? I know we don't have time. I mean, maybe in the next one. I mean, did you get to watch the Netflix episodes?
So I watched the first one. I got started on the second episode, but no, I haven't completed it. I do need to watch the rest of it. But yeah, I got to agree with everything Bret Hart ever said about Hogan. And I'm not trying to speak ill of the dead by no means. I was a Hulk man.
Yeah.
Go ahead, buddy. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
No. I mean, I agree. Yeah, I'm like, this dude is lying out of his ass on this fucking documentary.
I was a Hulkamaniac as well back when I was a kid, but then shoot interviews became a thing, and then when you hear so many people saying the same thing, there's got to be some truth to it. And that was just a bullshit call. It just, like I said, I felt like it killed Yoko's momentum. Yep. It killed the whole thing, the whole spectacle, the main event for WrestleMania 9. And I don't know if you've got the DVD of WrestleMania 9 by chance, Freeze, but the match that Hogan had in that tag match he had with when he tagged with Brutus and they took on Money Inc. for the belts. Yeah. Chris, good talking to you too, buddy. Thanks for being on here. But that whole segment for that match was probably about 40 minutes. Like you know how when you watch a DVD you have a display of the time and the chapter and all that
Yeah.
other stuff. It was roughly about 40 minutes just for that match and the promo segment alone. And a good chunk of that was Hogan posing with Brutus, and they're posing with the Money Inc. briefcase and showing the bricks that's in it and all this other stuff. I mean, you would have thought he was the freaking main event, or it was a main event match with all the posing he did.
Oh my god! Did you ever watch the documentary they had on Peacock about WrestleMania 9?
No, I did not. I meant to.
Remember when Hogan had that big old shiner?
Yeah.
And he kept telling the world, "Oh, I got hit by a jet ski."
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. Come on. It seems more believable that Savage gave you one over the eye. That gave him the shiner because of what was going on back behind the scenes.
I've heard that rumor, and actually, there's an early episode on my podcast from last year, and the episode, and I'll go ahead and plug it, and also in case if you haven't listened to it, it's a combo episode about a headline about the shiner, like you mentioned, because there's an article on it, and then about me meeting Mark Marrow back in 2016, but the story about the jet ski is that he got hit in the face by a particular jet ski and stuff and all that. And I actually looked up that particular make and model, especially at that time frame. Mm-hmm. Those things weighed about 300 plus pounds. And if you have a person riding it, you're adding at least 150 to 300, however many pounds. So you've got 500 pounds of impact hitting you square in the face. It's going to do more damage than just a shiner.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Yeah, I know. I was like, okay, Mr. Jet Ski, whatever you want to say, Hogan. I just couldn't believe it. Like, it would have been way worse. I think he would have missed Mania.
Well, not only missed Mania, but you got to think, 3 years earlier, Brutus had that horrible parasailing accident that shattered his face and almost killed him. And that's from someone flying in and hitting him in the face with their knees. So if a jet ski hits you in the face, it's going to do the same damage, if not more. And
exactly. Yep.
Yeah. But also at that time frame, he had a falling out with Savage, because Savage and Liz had, their marriage had basically ended. And I know he blamed Hogan and Linda on that as well. And so, yeah, it would make sense if Savage cleaned his clock. I mean, I know Hogan was a big guy, but there were guys smaller than him that were really tough, and Savage would have been one of them.
Yeah. Speaking of Savage, you should watch Chris Van Veek's, what's the name, Impressionist. I forgot the other guy, Paul Sater, and his name is Will Sasso.
Yeah.
Oh, did you watch it? Oh,
I've seen their impersonations of like Jesse Ventura, but I haven't seen the one on Randy Savage.
Oh, they did like Randy on Randy for like a good 10, 15 minutes. Well, the thing is, the whole thing was funny because he just let them riff. They were like, "Oh, listen, dude. Brother, no, I don't do that, dude." He's like, back to WrestleMania 8 when I had the match with Ric Flair. I was like, oh my God, they're so good. No, but Will Sasso does a great Ventura.
Oh, yes, he does. Most definitely. And Jesse Ventura, that's my favorite commentator of all time. I always loved it.
Him.
He meshed so well with Gorilla and Vince McMahon. He was just pure gold as a commentator. But you mentioned Flair. We were mentioned. Goblin made an honorable mention about Flair being one of the worst WWE champions, and it wasn't his fault. It's just the way a lot of these guys on this list. Mm-hmm. It's just because of bad booking. And I mentioned about Diesel. During his championship run, as Cornette said, it was the depression of the wrestling business because business was down. at all promotions. And I know that WWF wasn't drawing the money that WWF was wanting him to draw, but that really wasn't his fault because business was just down all across the board, you know?
Yeah, I remember.
And then Mysterio, you know, his was just bad book. He just got booked horribly as a champion. I don't know what they were thinking. Same thing with Slaughter and Jack Swagger as well. Goldberg. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, when Slaughter, when he became champion, it was like before WrestleMania 7, right?
Yes, sir. He became champion at the 1991 Royal Rumble when he defeated the Ultimate Warrior. And that was due to the storyline that Warrior was having with the Macho King at the time. And that set up, you know, their career match at WrestleMania 7. So it helped with that, but also this was also during the Persian Gulf War, Operation Desert Storm time frame.
Oh, I remember. Did he turn sides?
He was, yes, sir. He was an Iraqi sympathizer.
Oh, God, I remember now. No, because now I remember, what was it, WrestleMania... Was that WrestleMania 7 or WrestleMania 8? Because I remember the cover with Hogan and Slaughter. That was a badass cover, though. Yeah.
It was, yeah. But yeah, most definitely. But yeah, that was WrestleMania 7. So, but yeah, Slaughter, unless if he defended it on the house shows, the only title defense that I'm familiar with him having was the one with Hogan at WrestleMania 7. And I mean, it wasn't, you know, a scientific classic match. It wasn't, you know, Flair and Steamboat, but it was still a good match. It told a good story, had a good ending. Yeah. But another honorable mention, and this is tough for me to say because this is one of my favorites. But The Undertaker, his first WWF Championship run, and for the younger viewers,
you mean when he lost in 2 days or the next day?
It was 6. So he won it at the 91 Survivor Series against Hogan.
Yeah. Oh, it was 6 days. Okay.
And then 6 days later, they had a rematch because Vince was. So they used to do Survivor Series on Wednesday nights pre-Thanksgiving, and Vince had an event planned called This Tuesday in Texas. It was scheduled for the following Tuesday. Hogan had his rematch with Taker. Hogan wound up winning it. And then Hogan wound up getting stripped of the belt, and then that led to the 1992 WWF Championship Royal Rumble match. But
yeah, I remember that one. Damn.
Yeah.
Remember he said he didn't protect him when he did the tombstone.
Yeah. So I'm going to clarify on that for the viewers that aren't familiar with this. If you haven't watched it, watch the 91 Survivor Series championship match between Hogan and Undertaker. And it's the third match of the night. They had 5 matches. And at the end of the match, Hogan gets tombstone onto a chair that's slid in by Ric Flair. And Hogan, after the match, said that, you know, he basically got drilled with the tombstone. If you watch that match, he keeps Hogan a good 6 inches away from the mat, and he protected Hogan. Yep. And even Undertaker has went on record as confronting Hogan about it and saying, you know, Terry, your head did not touch the mat. Oh, well, you gripped me too tight, brother. Oh, Lord.
You know, that stood with him for years. Like, you know, he loved Hogan. It's just like, remember that one time, like, what happened to him at Raw when he got booed? He's like, do you feel bad for him? No. I was like, oh, shit. That was Mark. That was Undertaker. He came out and like, oh, he's like, no.
Oh, my gosh. That's awesome. No, but yeah, no, Hogan was well protected. And he actually, he took 2 tombstones in that match. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if he was really hurt, it would have been like an Austin Stone Cold. Remember when he faced Owen Hart at SummerSlam? It would have been like, you would have known that he really got hurt. Yeah. Now,
I will say, Undertaker I did see him, at least it looked like he spiked him, but you couldn't really tell because of the camera angle. But at the 1990 Survivor Series, when he made his debut as part of Ted DiBiase's Survivor Series team, he gave Coco Beware a tombstone, and from the angle of it, it looked like he spiked him pretty hard. Now, I could be wrong, but it looked like he spiked him.
I'll probably have to look on Netflix because I did watch that like a couple weeks ago. I've been
Oh
watching
yeah.
old pay-per-views. Yeah, they have it. They have a bunch of it on Netflix. They have King of the Rings. They got Survivor Series, old WrestleManias.
Well, now that you mention that, I'm definitely going to have to splurge on Netflix now since I got the old pay-per-views. But yeah, but no, folks, Hogan was not spiked by the Undertaker, and like Freeze Snake said, that followed him for a long time because he did not get another championship run for another 6 years.
Yep.
And
That's
and the
crazy.
thing is Taker was one of Vince's most loyal wrestlers too. Not to quote to quote Taker, he didn't lose his smile. He didn't jump ship for greener pastures. He stayed loyal.
Yeah, he was super loyal. No, he was like so like a locker room leader. Like remember like what happened in Montreal
Oh
after
yeah,
he was like, "What happened?" They were even scared to tell him, but then they're like, "Okay, he gets it. It's for the business." They weren't sure that he would drop the title or even be there on Raw. But
yeah.
I mean, we get the double cross, but then we have the whole thing like who made it? Was it Vince or was it Vince Russo or was it Cornette that thought of the double cross? They still fight about that to this day.
And it's been 30 years, almost 30 years, and we're still talking about it to this day. It's crazy. And I gotta say, and I'm not taking anything away from Bret the Hitman Hart. Hands down, one of the best technical wrestlers of all time. He had good psychology. He was a workhorse. He could put on matches with anybody. But I will say his last WWF title run in '97. Now, granted, he beat The Undertaker for it at SummerSlam '97, and they had a great match, but he was booked poorly as champion. And I'm not taking anything away from Del Wilkes, the Patriot, because that was one of the late Del Wilkes. That was one of the guys that Bret Hart defended his belt against, but they booked him against the Patriot. He wasn't even main event. He was the WWF champion, and he was not getting booked in main event matches on pay-per-views, except for Montreal at the '97 Survivor Series.
Like he even said he
Yeah.
wanted to drop it, like way before that. Like he said Stone Cold, but I think he got injured or something.
Well, so Austin was still recovering from injury at this point. Now he did come back at the '97 Survivor Series, and he did beat Owen Hart again for the Intercontinental Championship. I know Cornette had even toyed with the idea of having Bret dropping it to Shamrock, or Taker had even said, have Bret drop the belt to me, and then he'd do the honors for Shawn. It was just more of a respect thing with why Bret wasn't going to drop it to Shawn. And
Oh yeah,
and
he definitely.
and anybody that's followed the history of wrestling knows about the history between Bret and Shawn, at least back in those days, which they have now since patched things up and made amends, which is great. But yeah, I forgot to mention Bret's last championship run. It really was not the best, unfortunately, and it's nothing on him. It's nothing against him at all. It's just he was booked horribly. So, well, anyways, Freeze, I hate to do this. I know you just came on here a little bit ago, but I'm about at the 3 hour mark. But I
It's
do.
good talking to you.
It was good talking to you. Again, Free Snake, Exhausted Goblin, Doofy Dan, thank you all for being on this episode of Grizzly's Cave. And this is Grizzly Andrew signing off, saying take care and God bless. All right, so Freeze, I've ended my recording. Thank you again, buddy, for hopping on. I'm going to probably try to do more of these, just to get some more interaction, because I told Goblin and I think I told Doofy, I get bored hearing myself talk for 30 minutes to an hour. You know what I mean? Even though it's interesting stuff, I get bored hearing myself talk. It's good to interact. So,
Oh, I got you.
but it's about 2:30 here where I'm at. I'm about to jump off and go to bed.
Okay.
But buddy, it's good talking to you, and you have a good night, and I'll see you around. All right, buddy.
Good night. Have a good one.
All right, see you, man. Bye.